Today is Tuesday, May 15th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Goze. To my left is MMA Junkie Radio's fight analyst Dan Tom.
Oh, me?
In
Yes,
New
me.
York, it's Danny Otto. And
That's me.
that's George.
Hey. That's who?
It's George.
Oh,
You want to say it?
Just looking at him already. You're already on his
I
radar.
want to go brawny paper towel, but it doesn't look just like it. So he's just George. If I were Danny, I'd be saying, my best friend B.
Yeah. And he said that me.
I don't know too much the dynamic of your audience, Danny, but I would say 75% of people probably want to stab you when you say that. 75% is a good number.
I don't want to stab you. I might.
See, he's part of the 25.
George,
George, are you part of the 75%
I
of
might.
people when Danny says, and my best friend Pete, that want to stab Danny? Or are you part of the 25% that just go, all right.
I want to stab Danny after I've seen him stab me.
Damn. I got dark deep. So Danny, first you gotta stab him. Then
He's gonna.
will
George
stab
is gonna
you.
make me stab Pete, and then he's gonna stab me. That's what he wants.
I want
to
to
do.
watch Danny stab Pete. And then
Wait,
when
what?
Danny thinks that I'm now his friend or he did something that pleased me, little does he know now I want to stab Danny for us even getting to that point.
Is there something about Danny giving Pete a stabbing that makes you want to jump in?
Is it just one, or is
Just-
it like Santana and
I
American Me? Like, are they multiple?
No, I don't want nobody to die. Otherwise, I would have said
okay.
slit throats and all, and throw
Coming up
people
in a
off
minute.
So maybe
rivers,
just this little fatty
bridges.
area right here, like a love handle.
Just something enough so that
Oh, so not a
both
joke.
guys can brag that they're street now, that they have scars, they can tell stories. But no, I don't want nobody to.
I just picture George putting his feet up on
Little
the
bit of
counter
blood.
afterwards, drinking a coffee. Like, all right, yeah, okay.
I was picturing a Joey Diaz stabbing.
No.
Coming up for 30. Well, this pre-show got dark.
I tried to turn it dirty. Oh, you always do. Well, we're gonna end it on that
I
note.
don't even know where to recover from that. It's just like, all right, let's take a breather.
I'm
Let's
just picturing it.
start the show. Stand by.
Like, I don't know if I'd intervene.
Is Pete gonna go back and listen to this?
Maybe.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goze. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us. Can you dig it? There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goze.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goze, or his co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom, and back east, Producing the show, as always, Danny Otto. What's up, fellas?
What up, Holmes?
Good morning.
It's the only show that matters, especially now, right? It's hunting season.
Hunting season?
Maybe award season is more of
Award
an obvious
season.
way to say it.
You know, that caught me off guard. For one,
You brought it up yesterday.
no, the award show. Thank you, Danny. The World MMA Awards is going to happen on July 3rd. It usually happens. Well, it's happened in a variety of different spots, but usually it was the following year of
Within the first 2 months, right?
Yeah, of the fighting year, of which all these awards pertain to. And then I heard it was going to be in April. In fact, Mindra was in town because they heard the same thing. And now it's decisive. They've already put it out. It is July 3rd. When it first came out, we had campaigned that there should be something for MMA radio show / podcast. But Rob Hewitt from Fighters Only magazine said he felt like, well, you know, pitch it and we'll see. And I think a lot of our listeners did. Hell, I may have. I don't know. And it never happened. And I just thought it was never going to happen because then they got into, I'm not sure if it was programming. I know that's what it's called this year. But they got into other things that involve television. And I just thought, oh, my God, you know, like that's, I don't think they'll ever do it. So it surprised me. Yesterday when we talked about it, guys, I was looking because I thought it was supposed to launch. It's that whole little midnight thing, that little trick at midnight where it's like, well, midnight is technically the next day. So I was scanning through it yesterday thinking, is the voting here? And then between the PR rep, Jen Wink is handling that for them. Between her and I chatting and then the busy show that we had, I was informed that it was going to happen last night. But little did I know that under Best MMA Programming, our radio shows is there. So it's an honor to be nominated amongst those other powerhouses. And MMA Junkie as a website is nominated again. Very proud of that as well. Lastly, John Morgan got a nomination. He had
Nice to see.
not been nominated for a few years. And if you all recall, he's the 2009 Journalist of the Year prior to Ariel Helwani's run that he's had the last 6 or 7 years, or maybe even more, because this will be the 10th year of the World MMA Awards. It's happening at the Pearl. Wait, at the Pearl inside the Palms Casino Resort. And again, it's Tuesday of Fight Week. So why Tuesday? I know a lot of people are asking. July 3rd, July 4th is just the nation's birthday. And nobody really goes up against July 4th for any reason.
Going on.
It is, yeah. Too many things going on. It's bad enough that fighters are already not going to be able to celebrate for the most part because they're cutting weight and focusing in on that weekend's fights. So July 3rd is the World MMA Awards. July 4th is Independence Day. I doubt they'll even have any form of open workouts or press conferences. I think they'll just let the fighters be. In fact, they may even bring the fighters in a day early and start accelerating some things or having it all on Thursday. Thursday is the Hall of Fame. And so far we have Dan Henderson and Shogun Gracie for their fight. I'm sure they'll be here. UFC 139. We also have
Shogun
Art
Hua.
Dave.
Yeah.
Shogun Hua. That's he was a listener of ours.
I was trying to think, what?
Shogun Hua. Yeah, we had a listener called Shogun Gracie.
Yeah.
He was a caller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Years ago. Probably our first or second year. But Matt Serra and Art Davey, and we're still waiting on one more name, right?
Yeah.
Somebody asked
But didn't
me,
they say that they're not always going to follow that format?
if I recall, when they said, hey, this is the new way we're doing it, where we're having 4 branches, we're committing to, I think it was the first 2 or 3 years where every branch was going to have a nominee. Then after that, going forward, they were going to select and not necessarily fill each one of those branches, you know, of the fight, the pioneer wings, they should call them, pioneer wing, the modern era wing, the contributor wing, and the fight wing. So this year we have Matt Serra under the pioneer wing. The modern era wing, we don't have anybody yet, but the contributor is Art Davey, who is the creator and co-founder of the UFC back in 1993. And then we have the fight of the or the fight for the fight wing, which is UFC 139's main event, Dan Henderson versus Shogun Hua. So all we're left with is the modern era person. Who? Let's just jump into that real quick because I really want to jump into UFC 224 and Bellator 199 So only because we're on this, let's finish this out. Who would you throw in there? And let me say this. Yesterday when I was going through Junkie's Facebook page, somebody asked, why not Misha Tate? And I thought, they asked, could she be the first one? And I thought, wait a minute, she
That's a
could.
good one.
My answer was, it seems like because the UFC built everything around Ronda and Dana had a great relationship with Ronda, that if there ever was going to be a first female go in, it was going to be Ronda. I could be wrong, though. I don't know. She still states that she's technically hasn't retired. I don't know if there's that technicality out there of USADA. Can they still test them? But boy, I think one of those two is an excellent start. Now, aside from that, we have Dan Henderson, who could double dip the fight wing and the modern era wing. He doesn't really sound like he's coming back unless somebody really comes in with a boatload of money. And then any other fighters that you can think of, that might fit the bill. I know Frank Shamrock often gets talked about, and he did fight in both eras, but I think if he's going to go in, he's going to go in as a pioneer,
I think so
not
too.
as a modern era, because his modern era was more through Strikeforce than anything. But who wants to go first?
I'll go first. What you're seeing right now, okay, with guys like Chuck Liddell that are saying, I think I'm going to come back. I think that's why you won't see a Misha Tate or a Dan Henderson.
Oh, there's
for a while.
1-year rule. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah. So
Right.
I would go with a guy like Rich Franklin. I think would
That's
be
a good one.
a good person right now because I think it's very clear that he's just not coming back.
Right.
That's tough.
I looked at when I was at Dan Talks.
Yeah, I'm fans of guys from Frank Shamrock and guys like Pat Miletich were guys kind of on my list. More of those. I wanted to see those kind of names cleaned up first before.
Miletich is in.
You're right. Yeah. So that was now that those names are kind of being cleaned up, and more for modern era. It's tough because, like Goze said, you don't want to draw too soon, and even a lot of them where they did it like BJ Penn was obviously no one's going to argue with that, but he had a couple fights still, and he still has the door open even if they go back to Hawaii, kind of like what you guys are talking about, right? So it's hard because even the most befitting guys to be in there, it's hard to have that rule because it's just hard to know when the guys in the sport are going to call it done. We've seen it so many times before.
In fact, with Faber's even asked quite often, hey, so what you going to do, He retired in December of 2016, I believe, and got inducted in July of 2017. So, 7 months later?
What about outside fighters?
And then outside of that, he has talked about there's a possibility. He hasn't declared that he's coming back or anything. So I would like them to maybe move that back from a year to 3, or I think what I hear in other sports, like the NFL, it's 5 years.
Is it 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
Burt Watson.
Oh, Burt Watson would be contributor.
Yeah.
Contributor wing? Okay.
They already have Art Davey. But as far as the modern era, just think fighters.
Okay.
It goes.
Just
The
fighters,
reason I
just
looked it
fighters.
up is just in case Rich Franklin did start his career
Huh.
in 1999. And in 2001, I think it's somewhere in November, when Zuffa took over, that's when they divide the line of. So Rich Franklin could technically go in as a
pioneer?
As a pioneer, yeah. Unless
Really?
they were to specify, did he fight for the UFC in 1999? Then the answer would be no. Then he could go in as modern era.
I think that's what they mean.
Okay.
I got a partial answer because I don't know if and I think these guys. I'm a big fan of these guys, so I would put them in Dan Tom's Hall of Fame, no question. But I'm not sure if they would make the big Hall of Fame. But I think they should because the UFC built their company in the modern era off the backs of these guys, and maybe get these guys in through a fight, and that is UFC 155's fight between Joe Lozon and Jim Miller. I think that would be a fight
on the fight week.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's gained enough time, if enough time has passed. But if we really look at in the history of things,
the fight can go in any time. So,
yeah.
I believe, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why it shouldn't. I mean, they're not gonna you can't take it back like a retirement announcement. You can take that one back, but this one you can't take back. So
more flexible category, yeah, definitely, you're right.
Yeah. So I do remember that fight. That was a big bloody fight. In fact, isn't that when he got really viciously cut right here, Joe?
Yeah, and it has that ending image you see in a lot of cameras. I wish I could credit the photographer where Joe Lozon is on his back at the end of the third round after just trying to guillotine, and Jim Miller is just on his, resting his head on Joe Lozon's like a pillow, and they're just both out of breath, covered in blood. Just amazing. Yeah, it was Las Vegas. Las Vegas. Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez 3 or 2. I want to say 3. That was the card. Yeah.
Here's the UFC Hall of Fame as it stands. And this is really confusing. because Coleman definitely should be in the Pioneer wing.
Right.
But I think they decided this after a few of these early guys.
He was an
had
early
gone
guy.
in.
He was an earlier guy.
Unless
for
they
sure.
redirected him that way. I don't know. I need to dig into this one a little bit more. Couture definitely started in the 90s. Coleman in the 90s. Militich in the 90s. Hoist Gracie, Matt Hughes, Tito Ortiz.
Yeah.
Charles Lewis, Chuck Liddell, Forrest Griffin, Dan Severn, Ken Shamrock, and Stephen Bonner. So, in fact, they just need to update this page because if that's it,
Penn's not on
then
there.
Lewis, I imagine, gets redirected to the contributor wing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a Penn or a Faber. So, yeah, the UFC, they need to fix this. Huh.
What about old Oleg?
Dektarov?
Yeah.
I looked into that
He
once.
won a tournament.
All right, let's look at it.
You know, it's cool. I was watching, I think it was Fedor Arlovsky, and Fedor's like post-fight celebration. Like, Oleg Dektarov's in there giving him a hug. And was like, these guys all know each other somehow. It's great.
Which one?
Affliction 2, Arlovsky Fedor after he knocks out Arlovsky. Oleg Dektarov's in the ring, like celebrating with Fedor. It was one of like Fedor's like 100-man entourage at that time.
Here's what Tektarov did. I'm going to try and give you what was of note. Now that they have the 4 wings and he's not in, he would have to go under Pioneer. So in the UFC, he got to the UFC as a 3-0 fighter.
Mm-hmm.
He lost to Severn, another Hall of Famer.
Yep.
It says via TKO via cut. Hit UFC 5. So UFC 5, he fought twice. It looks like he must have lost probably in a semifinal. Then he comes back to UFC 6 and wins it. Now, a tournament win to me is probably one slight step below being a world champion, because back then they didn't have world champions. Some may even say it's as equal to being a world champion. I wouldn't fight them on that, honestly.
He's like the champion until the next tournament comes around.
Right. Exactly.
Sorry, you know what's cool about Dektarov's early run? Is that he actually only did it for money, because he actually came here to be. He was in movies for people that don't know. He was in 15 Minutes with Robert De Niro. Was in
Predators.
Yeah, bunch of movies. But
Predator?
He actually
one of the later ones.
But he actually came here in the early 90s to be in Hollywood movies and needed money. And since he did Sambo in his background and saw the fighting, the tough man fightings, and he was like, oh, I'll do this for money. So it's kind of ironic. Kind of to me, which to me makes it more impressive what George is reading off right now, that he was doing this stuff in his spare time.
One thing that impressed me about when he fought was how calm he was. And I've said that many times on our early tag radio days. He would be at the bottom, and he would just be calm. Even if he got pummeled, like there was no cover-up. He wanted to see what was coming at him. He just wanted to gauge what technique he should use or what he should do. But he was just the most calm dude ever, man.
Yeah.
All right, so now he's 7-1. So he's got the loss to Severn. He's won the UFC 6 tournament. He gets a UFC super fight opportunity against Ken Shamrock. And those belts kind of were regarded a little bit like championship belts.
Mm-hmm.
They fought to a draw. We go to Ultimate. He made it to the finals and lost to Severn again. Again, I want to specify that was a Hall of Famer. Along the way, he beat a respectable Dave Beneteau. Now, if I pull up Dave Beneteau's record right now, you might go, well. But at the time, he was a tough guy to beat. He was one of the toughest men in the world. What did he finish out at? 6-5-1. All right. But he beat Marco Huas, who was very well respected. Another tournament winner. He beat Tank Abbott, who was an ultimate finalist, but not a tournament winner. I don't believe he ever won a tournament.
No.
Don Fry knocked him off.
He beat Beneteau twice, actually. So now we get to, it looks like he went over to Pancrase. He dropped the fight there. And he fought Marco Huas to a draw at Vale Tudo Championships. And then, of course, Renzo Gracie, him getting upkicked. That's always talked about, especially when you're talking about Renzo Gracie, one of his biggest wins. This was at Martial Arts Reality Super Fighting. After that, World Fighting Federation, Pentagon Combat. I don't know these places. I've heard of Sean Alvarez. Loses at Pride 1 versus Gary Goodrich, and then finishes off with 5 straight wins, including one over Mark Kerr, who at Yama Pit, who wound up being a tournament winner in the UFC. If I look at that compared to some of the others that are going in the Pioneer Wing, or are in the Pioneer Wing, I would say he deserves it.
I think so too.
He also landed some really good shots on De Niro in 15 minutes. Granted, De Niro was tied to the chair,
I
but
haven't even seen it.
It was some good shots to
What's
that.
it called?
What, 15 minutes?
I know for a fact that you've seen it.
Oh, I have?
Because you pointed it out to me. You go, I think that's Oleg Taktarov. But I
Yeah,
never
yeah. He
watched
plays
it.
him and a Russian guy. They play immigrants that go to New York and they go around committing crimes and killing people. And
I love it already.
Taktarov is like buys a camcorder in the beginning of the movie and he's filming it as it goes along. And De Niro and Edward Burns are cops trying to catch up. And then Taktarov's like doing like selfie stuff. Like, and it's like 97 too, so it's really like I don't know. It's really good.
I was just about to ask him for a spoiler. Do you care?
No, because I'll forget.
All right. Hey, everybody, if you care about this movie, just tune out for like 30 seconds.
15 minutes with Robert De Niro and Taktarov.
Does he die in the movie? Because he dies in every
that's a
movie.
big spoiler there. I thought you were just going to point
tell
something
me
out.
later.
No,
because he dies in every
private
movie.
message
I'm
of
not
that
gonna say.
answer. 'Cause now I want to watch it. And
Here's what I will say. If we did a poll, if we made a poll of people who've seen all of Oleg Taktarov's movies, I guarantee you, if there's like, which is your favorite performance of his, this would be #1 by far.
even better than the cameo he made in Bad Boys 2 before getting
When he was
chopped up.
Joseph.
That was good.
Two.
That was good because Michael Bay actually used a real Russian guy instead of the one guy he always uses for everything, the cosmonaut guy. I mean, every Michael Bay movie, that guy is every the cosmonaut. Anyway, sorry.
So yeah, man, I think Taktarov would qualify, and I'm not saying he should be next. I just think at some point you got yourselves a player here. I should pass that on to Ant Evans from the UFC. I think he's one of the quarterbacks over there when it comes to the Hall of Fame. While we're at it, I did open up Beneto's, and I don't think he would qualify. He was a finalist at UFC 5.
From Canada,
and
right?
he lost to Severn, much respect, but then he lost for a couple first rounds in subsequent tournaments. I think you have to capture a tournament at least to be talked about, and it didn't happen. So no hate. He did his job back then. He was one of the tough guys back then. And as far as Rich Franklin, I'm going to see if I can find clarity on did they have to start with the UFC in the 90s, or as long as their career started in the 90s, then does it apply? And they really should shake up that UFC website. They have the resources and the means, and it's going to be a deal here in a couple months. So why not clarify all that and have it in order? We were supposed to have a co-host today of Alexander Almeida, and there must have been some confusion. His contact, who I was talking about, and that's the former WSOF featherweight champion, who will be fighting in the PFL. I see him a lot at Extreme Couture, actually. And I asked, does he speak English? He said, yeah. Could he handle 2 hours? Yeah, let's do it. We locked this in like a week ago. And then a few days ago, I started hearing from other people, and turns out I might have been with Ali, and maybe his schedule didn't clear up. So I told the other rep, hey, I thought you were the manager. I haven't heard back, so sucks because I thought we'd have a co-host here. But we don't. We'll get over that. Chet Congo, will join us at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So we still got about another hour before we get to him. I invite you all to call in 866-522-2846. Participate at any time during the show, and I'll let the guys speak, but I do want to get into these fights. So one of you was going to say something, right?
I think Dan was.
Oh, no, I was just going to – I didn't want to sidetrack anymore, but do you guys remember when they did I'm glad the UFC Hall of Fame, to close the chapter on that, I'm glad they segment it the way they do. They do need to update their page, but remember when the NBA did the top 50 basketball players in the 90s? How big was that? Remember that?
Amazing. Oh, man. I could
Where was your guy going to –
What did you like about it? Or what did
I was worried because I was a fan of underrated players, and my favorite player played under the greatest player of all time, so I was afraid he wasn't going to get recognized. He was. Granted, I think he was like 48, but it was Scottie Pippen.
He was the 48th guy?
I believe that was his number, the number he got or something. I believe they numbered the guys. Yeah. So it was like, who makes it?
1997, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they could have had all 50 there. Because Wilt hadn't died.
Yeah.
He was there.
Yeah.
Shaq couldn't go. I think he was a Laker, but he had an injury.
Oh, he was probably in the playoffs.
No, I wish I could say that, but it was an all-star game, I think. But Shaq was a Laker. He had an injury. I thought it was fucking dumb, though, because it wasn't serious enough that he couldn't hop on a plane and be there with all those great players. You know what I mean? Like George Mikan, man, he was still there. And then a few of them have passed away, including Wilt. I think Wilt and Michael Jordan had never met each other. And that was a consensus 1 and 2 for a lot of people. You know who the other moron is that didn't go?
Who?
Jerry West. And I think Jerry West was either our general manager at the time. I believe so. And there was just this thing about him being a workaholic and being stressed out. And look, I shouldn't call him a moron because he did help build those teams of the 80s and had some incredible trades in the 90s. He got us Kobe Bryant, basically. But I still feel like, come on, after all this success, after knowing what it feels like to be in a fraternity like that, you can't hop on a plane. The fucking guy that's going to walk that girl down that's going to marry Prince Harry, he just had a heart attack. And he's begging the doctors to let him get out on Wednesday so he can fly across the pond so he can walk his daughter, you know. These guys, I think they could have done it. We would have, I believe, had the 50th. Let me look at it. That would have been cool. Was Pete Maravich still alive?
Was it 97? I thought it was a little bit later. I thought it was like 99.
Yeah, I don't want the UFC to restructure their Hall of Fame, but maybe, I don't know, maybe it's just to throw out for fodder.
Maravich was dead, so it was all living could have been there.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was saying, like, the UFC, I like how they're segmenting off the Hall of Fame, but it would be kind of cool, like, if they did some kind of hypothetical or side category if we get enough, tenure in the sport to do a 50, some type of 50.
I'm sure it's been done. Like Bleacher and Bloody Elbow.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, well, yeah,
you can dive into stuff like that. Yeah. I'll come across it on a YouTube or just jumping through pages. But I think now that they have the MMA JA, maybe that's something that they could do. You know what I mean? Because they seem to have gathered like the top names out there.
Well, isn't this 25 years for the UFC, right? Why don't they do the 25 greatest UFC fighters of all time?
You know what? Fuck them. Why don't we do it?
Yeah.
I said Siri?
What did you guys just do?
I saw your phone working too. Like,
I hit Siri, but I don't think I said. I think maybe Sirius. Is that what it said?
Probably.
Sirius?
Alexa.
Sirius? I'm on Sirius? Huh. Neil Siri?
His phone actually turned off. I don't know. It's something you said.
50 greatest players goes. Was it
all right, so the 25 greatest. When do you want to do this? Let's pick a day. And we'll sit down and we'll do it. Maybe we'll get turn this into a war room.
And then you could do if there's a way to organize it. Do a separate within like the Junkie Combat chat.
How about we do our own
caller list?
Yeah, isn't that what we're talking about?
Okay, our own.
Yeah, we turn it into a war room and we figure it out.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
Wait, are we figuring it out on the air, or are we?
Yeah, we're figuring
like
it out
an ESOL board or something. Like.
Oh no, but war room implies us three are going to come together to a decision.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Are we? Is it a show where we announce it? Or where we're actually debating who needs to go in.
We each do our homework, and then we bring it here, and then we talk about it.
Yeah, because I bet you we're already.
That's gonna take a whole episode.
Well, we'll agree on half of them, I'm sure. And then I bet you there'll just be like a good half of the list where then our personal criteria can't help but bleed over, and that's where we'll differ.
Yeah,
but I'm sure we'll all have the classics like, okay, well we gotta have this guy, or we gotta have this guy, right?
In MMA or in the UFC.
In MMA, I mean, because you can't not do one of these and not have Fedor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? Even though the UFC is going to dominate this list, well, a lot of guys actually didn't start with the UFC, but they wound up in the UFC. But yeah, it has to be.
I think you can.
Is it 1 to 25?
Oh, you're asking because of the 25 years?
Yeah, that was how
that's
we
a good
started
question. Okay, so do the greatest list, but on the side do UFC, and the reason why is because it'll be easy to just migrate everyone over. And what's going to happen is there's going to be very few fighters that didn't fight in the UFC that are on your list, and then all you're going to do is push everyone up. Yeah. See what I'm saying? So you're only you're going to have to the ones that would have been in your honorable mention MMA, they'll probably fill out those last couple spots on the
Is
UFC
it 1 to 25 or is it just these are the 25 in no order?
No, you got to have some balls. You got
order?
Yeah.
Fuck, man, you guys are brutal. All right.
I mean, I think that would be fun,
I had fun doing the lightweight fights thing. That was a blast. I mean, it took some time, but it was really like just when you go back and actually like do a little bit of research or on some of these, you're like, oh wow, oh wow, and you just really puts you back into that narrative.
You did it on your podcast?
Well, I do list on that all the time, so I get that effect. Even though I haven't done one on there in a while, but for the article I did for Junkie, the top 10 lightweight fights, was able to go back and do similar research.
All right, let's take these calls. And then we'll get the break in. Marco from Waco, start things off.
Marco from Waco, que pasa datos.
Marco.
What's up?
Hey, Chi, le, viva Chile. Hey, they're going to Chile this week, so I'm going to go with that the whole week.
You're going to Chile?
No, I'm just going to go with it. Go with the Chile.
What's he talking about, the World Cup?
The card coming up in Chile.
Oh, that. Okay. I got you.
Definitely not
They
talking
didn't,
about the World Cup,
I was
George.
going to say, they didn't get in. Okay. Did you hear about Peru? Paulo Guerrero? Yeah, you did, obviously. He's not in, man. That's a big hit to Peru.
Kick the knife again. You know it hurts, man. You know it hurts. I still remember the Copa America, but okay.
No, the reason I said that, Marco, is because I think I had asked you on the air, have you been back? And you said you hadn't been back in a while, so that's why I was happy for you. It sounded like you said, I'm going to Chile for a week, so I was like, oh, cool. But okay, it turns out you're not. Sorry.
Happy birthday to my baby boy Rodrigo, who turned 8 years old yesterday.
Hey,
Happy birthday, Rodrigo.
Dude, I remember when Marco called in and I think sung him happy birthday. He was like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Don't do it again, by the way, but I remember when you did it that time.
Talking about people in the Hall of Fame, have they put the Fertitta brothers in the Hall of Fame yet? Because, I mean, they should be a shoo-in. You know? The guys made the sport, basically. Pioneers, and, you know, they're the pillars of the sport, if you ask me.
You know what I would do is I would hang on to them and play that card when you feel there's a year that something that there isn't a contributor out there that you can bestow that honor on.
If they were still part of the company, I'd say no, but because they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look up. There was an initial article. It came out 3 years ago, and it explained these specifics. And when I find them, then I'll know if it's even appropriate for them to be in or not. I think eventually all 3 of them and Dana White will definitely be in.
Okay, bro. Well, we'll talk about fights tomorrow, man. I just wanted to put in my 2 cents about that and wish my baby boy a happy birthday.
Okay.
Peace out, man.
Later. One more. Rick from Alaska. What's up, bud?
Hey guys, good morning. With Czech Congo coming on later, I'm sure you guys are going to ask him this anyways, but just in case, I'd love to hear his opinion about how the announcers are kind of getting on him about not being the most exciting fighter in the world. I mean, Mauro said that Czech Congo is a boring fighter in not so many words, at least 6 times, and eventually Big John kind of jumped in there and started agreeing with Mauro, and then Czech Congo knocked out his opponent. So it'd be interesting to hear what, because Czech addressed a little bit of it in his post-fight interview and some other interviews, but just you guys have a way of finessing a question that could go a little deeper. I would like to hear his opinion about that. And then I have a fight suggestion for the Hall of Fame after.
What is it?
You guys, I don't think it's been put in yet, is Mark Hunt versus Bigfoot. I mean, what's the likelihood of that one being put in?
That's a good one, man.
Because if you look at the 2 people who, participated in it, Mark Hunt's suing Dana White still, right? And Bigfoot has kind of been, disbanded from everything. He's just out there in the outer realms doing kickboxing and stuff. So, I mean, if you bring Shogun and Dan Henderson and they start making speeches, that's 2 veterans and legends, and so it's more of, like you guys said, 2 people will eventually be put in the Hall of Fame themselves, whereas Mark Hunt and Bigfoot, I don't see either of them being put in, so you're just kind of doing it on the principle of how good the fight was, which we all loved, but these guys aren't exactly in the greatest standing with the UFC, at least Mark Hunt.
Well, I definitely agree with the fight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they need to do it in sequential order. If they do, then we know that as of November 2011, any fight that was great before that cannot be nominated. So I doubt that's the case. But that's a great fight, and I understand what you're saying. Put a little shine on those guys, versus 2 guys that for sure will have their own moments as well outside that fight.
Yeah.
You know what I always look at when I look at fights like
Rick,
this? When people bring them up, if I can remember exactly where I was when it happened, I know it was a good fight. And as soon as he said it, I remembered exactly where I was.
Where?
That was with you. Do you remember where we were?
No.
We were in the cabin.
Oh,
Steve's
really?
cabin in Big Bear.
Oh, wow. Shit, you watched that in the cabin?
Yep.
That fight, by the way, that fight also is top 5 in-corner moments for me in a fight. The 4th round, at the end of the 4th round, Mark Hunt's legs are almost given out. He got knocked down by Bigfoot. He's barely making it to his corner, and then Mark Hunt's coach, his head coach, longtime head coach, goes, Mark, 3 things, Mark. 3 things to win this fight, Mark. Listen. Hard. And it was just so, it was like right out of a movie. Like, you couldn't write that better. You couldn't make that scene better. Like, just a corner just trying to revive his fighter right out of him. It's probably my number 1 if we ever do it. Spoiler alert.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Dan. And tell you what, when we come back from the break, I want to tackle this before we really, for real, get into recapping the weekend's action.
Tease.
Aside from Pennington and her coach and everything that happened there with the controversy, another thing that I'm hearing off of that is, okay, so we sent her out, but there was no technique talk. And I'm going to explain to you when we come back why I think there wasn't. I think it's pretty fucking obvious and pretty easy to figure that out. But for all you numbnuts out there, I will explain it to you. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. play, everything, but like I even said, Corby and LeBron might even be. I don't know.
Tell your boss to reschedule that meeting. Call your wife and tell her lunch is off. It's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goze.
Well, I'm looking for this original announcement of what direction the UFC was going to go with their Hall of Fame. You know, they did this about 2-3 years ago.
I think it went to our email. It was what are they called? Like a press release, something or
Like 2016, 15? I don't have that shit. Do you?
no. That's all.
Yeah, I'm looking on Google to see if there's anything that kind of explains, because I just realized Bruce Connell, the TV
R.I.P.
executive, is also going to be in the contributor wing. So is Art Davey, which means this is still one of those years where they can have multiple inductions in each category. So nothing's stopping them from going, you know, let's put Frank Shamrock in there as well, along with Matt Serra.
There's something stopping them.
There is some,
Right.
yeah, there is, but that's silly to me. The man performed, you know, whether you got along with him or not, the man performed. And whoever's making the decision has to, I know it's not just Dana, it's got to be someone else. Doesn't everyone ever look in the mirror and go, man, I'm a dick. Why am I out there firing off all these Scud missiles when I'm an asshole too? I need to cut it out, or I need to allow for other greatness amongst me, aside me, or whatever, because no one's perfect. You know what I mean? Mistakes have been made, but within the confines of the octagon, the agreement was, I'll promote you, you fight. Fuck, the dude was great. You know, that's got to be respected. Something has to be said for that. You get into some trouble like Bill Cosby, then yeah, I'll be the first one to say, here's the shovel. Let's get rid. You see that? The Hollywood Star, they were removing it.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, that's terrible things he did. You know what I mean? But I've never heard anything like that, even remotely close to Frank Shamrock. He needs to be in, man. They need to figure that out. I'll keep scrolling through this, but let's jump back to UFC 224.
Corners you're talking about, right?
So Nunes and Pennington.
Okay.
And I'll scroll down from there, but let me just tell you something. The reason why there wasn't any technique talk is because that whole thing, that whole little exchange till the very end, if you hear, once the whistle happened, she turned around. The coach needed to utilize, and there's a great story there. I think Morocco did it. He caught up with the coach. He's got quotes from the coach on why he did it. There's support from Tisha, her fiance and training partner. There's support from Pennington herself, that she's glad she was pushed by the coach. And I'm not trying to get into who's right, who's wrong, but that little thing about, well, why wasn't there at least some technique talk? There just wasn't any time. He used every single second he had to at least get her back in the ball game. And I think if you really think about it, when he said something along the lines of unload the tank or let it all go or something like that, I think what he meant was just fire everything you got. You know, like your hands. Your hands are your main weapon. And I'm pretty sure she knew that. And that's why she went out there and did it. And Goze and I rewatched the fight in round 5. I think she touches her at least 3 good shots on the jaw. Except they were more straight shots, and Amanda saw them coming. But if she could have caught her on one of those hooks, you know, slip a punch and then catch her on a hook, you never know. The other one might wobble. I've seen fighters go straight down. But to Amanda Nunes' credit, she was eating everything that was thrown at her chin. But I think all that's fairly obvious, and I can't understand why others are struggling with that.
You can't tell them what to do at the plate if you can't get them to the plate. So that's what he's trying to do, is get them to the plate.
It's a tough situation for sure. And actually, you know, just this morning I was doing the last of some tape study for Alexa Grasso versus Tatiana Suarez. And if you go watch Alexa Grasso versus Heather Jo Clark, in the first round, Heather Jo Clark gets head kicked and dropped, and she complains about vision. She doesn't say I won't out like Raquel did, which I think that's why from people, from fans to even people like ourselves, were kind of taken aback by the whole Raquel Nunes situation from last Saturday. But in this fight, if you go back, Heather Jo Clark's complaining, I can't see, I can't see, and Robert Follis, another rest in peace, says, "I don't say that out loud because they might stop the fight." But I need you, but then immediately goes, point to me and tell me what it is. So he's, you know, still thinking tactical, but still showing care for his fighter.
Right.
And you see it, and it's more about the mood. And Robert Follis is one of the most experienced, most tactical guys, and I think he handled it very well, because you see him give the option to his fighter, and he says, "Okay, if you want me to call it, let me know now, but let me know. Don't say it out loud for the commission to hear." So he gives her the way out. And she doesn't say anything, and she doesn't look the most confident, to be honest. And it was like, ooh, okay. And he continues to give her he continues to dress her with the corner man, and she starts saying, I can't see. And then she starts kind of retracting on her words. Her confidence kind of comes back a little bit. She goes, well, I can't see when I look down, but I can see when I look straight forward. And Follis goes, all right, well, then look straight forward, throw some punches, and get out there. And she goes, and the great part about that is the corner, and it was Anik and Stan who do a great job, and I especially love that we don't have Brian Stan anymore going back and listen to his commentary. It sparks dialogue between them, the dialogue that we and many were having after this event on Saturday, and they actually go through it throughout the round, talking about, you know, what the corner's job is, and there's some really awesome dialogue. I suggest you guys go back and watch, whether you're trying to get homework done for this weekend or you are curious about the subject at hand. And by the time the second round's over, when we go into the third, no complaints about Heather Jo Clark about her eye, nothing. It's back to being tactical, but it just showed that she just needed that little bit of reassurance, right. and he you know, to get back in there. But he also, and again, we can nitpick Raquel's coach. Sure, it's a really tough situation to deal with, but I think is that if maybe Raquel's coach did what Follis would have done, maybe so to say, and given the out along with what else he said, I think people maybe would have been less. You know, less harsh on here. And at the end of the day, of course, like Raquel said, I could have called it off any time.
Yeah, you can argue both sides.
Right.
And I don't think either side would be wrong. But I think you got to be around the fight game a little bit more to understand.
Yeah, 100%.
Over the weekend, I picked the brain of some top coaches out there. One of them was very clear that I could share anything him and I discussed. You guys want to hear it?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
And then we'll really dive into UFC 224 and Bellator 199.
Let's do it.
All right. I said I'm going to – now, there's a few things that I may just slightly tweak, but I think this is going to be as authentic as it gets.
Okay.
So I wrote, Coach, quick question. If a fighter told you they wanted to quit, similar to Pennington last night, so this was a Sunday conversation, would you support them or maybe suggest they go back would you support them or maybe suggest they go back out? Which is the same thing. I don't know why I wrote that. I know this will be a hot topic. Oh, would you support them for the quitting part? Yeah, the decision to quit, or suggest they go back out. I know this will be a hot topic, and I wanted to hear from other coaches, you know. And he said, check this out, how he wrote me. You guys will be able to guess it pretty quick, but he wrote me back. There was a fight I was cornering where one of my guys went down 7 times. They said 3, but it was 7. This fighter I trained was the toughest guy I ever met in my life. I fought since I was 8. I'm almost 50, and I've been in the military, so I've seen a ton of tough guys, but this guy was the toughest guy I ever met. I was beyond close with this kid, like a little brother, and beyond close as a trainer, never missing one single sparring session, which had been in the thousands. And in those thousands sparring rounds, boxing, kickboxing, MMA, I'd never, he emphasized that, seen him rocked once. So when he went down the 7th time and got up and was fighting a guy 25 pounds bigger, I tried to throw in the towel, but my good friend grabbed the towel out of my hand and stopped me. So sounds to me like it was a good friend / cornerman as well. The fighter came back to the corner bloody mess with a dazed look, but when I started talking to him, you could tell he had a ton more in him, and there's no place he wanted to go but back out to where he was dropped 7 times previously. He comes back, wins the round, slams this guy who had never been taken down and had one of the biggest comebacks in UFC history. He went on to have a 3rd fight. Same thing happened in the 1st round, and came back and knocked the guy out. I present to you Mark Henry talking about Frankie Edgar.
Another fight that made my top 10 lightweight list right there, by the way, the one he's talking about. Yeah.
And wasn't there recently a fight? It was either New Jersey or Vegas where Mark was in the corner. You know, he's a big kid, right? Mm-hmm. And he's shielding. Remember, Goze, I was watching with you. I go, look at Mark Henry. He's actually shielding the doctor from the doctor being able to get a good look. Mm-hmm. Not only was he shielding him because he had the towel on him and he was talking to him. Times you got 60 seconds, right? It takes him about 3 or 4 to get to the stool and either stand or not. And the coach is there. And by the time they bring the doctor in, we're probably at the 30-second mark. So all he's doing is playing defense and deflecting and blocking because he knows his guy. And he knows at some point there's going to be a whistle. And then the ref's going to look to him. And what you do is you bring a panic into the doctor. And the doctor may actually make an uneducated guess. I think he's all right because he's feeling the pressure of he's got to get the fuck out because they're yelling for seconds out. This fight you either declare it over or it goes on. And a lot of times these doctors, they don't know any better. And the coach knows this, right? I've seen Stitch do that, and I've seen Mark Henry do it.
Yeah.
So Mark Henry's doing it, and I think he said it 2 times. He just waved him off. He's all right. He's going to be all right. And he yells in an authoritative voice as he's wiping him down. And, of course, I know there's some softies out there that are going, you're not letting the doctor do his job. What if he died? What if he this? That's what we signed up for, motherfuckers.
No.
All right? This is a dangerous sport. And something like that will happen at some point. Now, we've been saying that for about 10 years, at least on this show. And Goze and I really, really, really did watch UFC 1 back in 1993. So we've been saying it for 25 years. It's going to happen. And it has in unsanctioned bouts and for other reasons. But in the UFC, it's going to happen. All right? But it's not going to make the sport unsafe. And I also don't believe that it'll be the downfall of the sport. But that's a whole other story. Anyway, Mark Henry does this. The doctor just didn't have time. And I believe the fighter either came back and won or at least performed. He gave him that extra round.
I thought it was Edson.
Was it Edson against
so.
Habib?
Probably.
Maybe? Okay.
Probably.
And these guys know their fighters more than any of us do as media and fans. And they know them and the fighter have spoken about how far they can go. And they've seen these fighters how far they can go. The only regret Mark Henry could ever have is if down the road them and the fighter huddle up when they're both 60 and 70 and they're having trouble remembering things like I do right now and saying maybe we pushed it too far.
Yeah.
And they both toast a beer and go, maybe we did. But I bet you they'll go, but those were some great times, weren't they? And they'll fucking smile their asses off because they left it out there. They went for it. That's the sport. It's dangerous, man. It's the way it is. We hope to learn from a lot of things, and we hope to cut the bad decision making at some point. But while you're out there and while you're fighting, have at it, man.
No, I agree, and that thing is seen a lot too. By the way, I just hate it because it interferes with the cut man. Let the doctor get in there just after those 45 seconds are up. Let the cut man do his job. Let that swelling go down. I hate when doctors get in there during the 45 seconds.
Yeah. I keep thinking you're gonna go to commercial.
Well, I wasn't sure if because I said something. I wasn't sure if you guys.
No.
You want to give me an amen or something? Or what?
No, I agree with the coaching point. Yeah, no, I sentiment that 100%.
But you're right. There are people who are gonna say let the doctor do his job, and again, it goes back to if you're around the fight game, you would understand.
Yep.
Yeah, so Mark knows this, and I think he knew that if the doctor did his job, it could cost him his fighter, and that's what he didn't want because he has enough experience to know that his fighter can be pushed. The fighter wants to be pushed. The fighter should be pushed. It could just be that camp that thinks that way, but I respect that camp a lot, and I respect his opinion. So anyway, yeah, it's time to go to commercial. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, March 93.
calm, compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goze.
Right now through May 29th, you can listen to SiriusXM for free in the car and on the SiriusXM app and online. Just download our app or go to SiriusXM.com to listen to your favorite channels. While you're there, get a sneak peek of Howard Stern video. All right, look, we ain't going to get much done here in 3 minutes. So you guys want to hear more Mark Henry?
Yeah.
All right. He goes on to say,
and I quote,
"These two fights changed this man's life, and forever he was labeled as the toughest fighter and champion to have ever been in the UFC. Not only that, he still has the record for most defenses and will probably go into the Hall of Fame. If I threw that towel in, I would have changed his life forever. If Frankie or some of my other fighters told me that's it, I would immediately tell the ref it's over. But I have known other fighters I've had in sparring, they get a little panicked and say they can't go, but I know they're fine and they do more rounds and they learn that they could push. Me or no one else knows Pennington or have the right to think we know her. Every circumstance is different. Up to that point, she wasn't rocked once or dropped. Good point there. I think we touched on that as well. She didn't go through that little wobbly stage or anything like that. She was of clear thinking, or as clear as you could be for fighting a fucking world champion for 20 minutes. Every circumstance is different. Up until that point, she wasn't wrong. I said that already. The worst thing was the leg kicks, and Nunes wasn't throwing as much. Pennington went in there to get the win. What would we be writing today? How our corner was the best corner to have ever trained a fighter. And like Misha said yesterday, there may be a price to pay. Maybe Rocky will be. Maybe she takes the rest of 2018 off. Maybe there's additional headaches. Maybe the nose slightly crooked. I don't know. But I think what far outweighs it is that she could have possibly been a world champion that night.
Who do you think was the person that took the towel out of his hand? Almeida?
That's a great question. I think that's who I would go with. Who else seems to be a presence? Maybe Henzo. Henzo once in a while gets in there, but Frankie Edgar. I always think of Almeida.
Man, I don't even know the third person in his corner.
He always talks about a wrestling guy named Steve Lopez.
That might be it. Yeah.
Want me to ask him?
Yeah.
Seems a.
I don't mind.
It's not normally a fighter, that's for sure.
All right. Well, let me do this. We are going out to break here. It's the end of the first hour. It's the MMA Junkie Radio Show on SiriusXM Rush 93. Yeah, I'll tell you what. This would be a good time for you all to check out World Mma Awards.com. We have been nominated for Best Programming. We'd love to get your vote if you feel like we've earned it. So get in there and vote. The voting has already started, and it'll be going for the next 4 weeks. And we're going to be pains in the asses reminding you of it for the next 4 weeks. So anyway, aside from that, we still got 1 hour to go. We will talk to Bellator heavyweight Czech Congo not when we come back, but 30 minutes after that. When we come back, we'll really be breaking down UFC 224, Bellator 199. See you in a bit.
The daytime, if you see it once.
Bust your eardrum like a slug to your chest. Like a vest for your Jimmy in the city of sex. We in that sunshine state where the bomb ass him be. The state where you never find a dance floor empty and pimp speed. On a mission for them greens. Lean, mean, money making machines serving fiends. I've been in the game for 10 years making rap tunes. Ever since Honeys was wearing Sassoon. Now it's 95 and they clock me and watch me diamond shining, looking like a Rob Liberace. It's all good from Diego to the Bay. Your city is the bomb if your city making pay. Throw up a finger if you feel the same way. Straight putting it down for California, yeah.
Shouting out cities, which one do you wish they would have included?
Santa Ana.
Yeah. Well, that was an easy one. You're right. Give me another one.
Huntington Beach.
Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
Dan, have you lived at all in in California?
No, I spent time there for many reasons. I like Ventura. Did they say Ventura? Did they give Ventura love?
Tell me something about Ventura that
Ventura gets love.
That would make me go, oh, I feel you. Other than John McCarthy lived there apparently in a cool house. For a while.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's right by Oxnard, so you got that kind of cool beach vibe. Still a lot of some spots out there. I mean, it's kind of changed over the years.
Any hot chicks from Ventura or anything?
I mean, I would go to punk rock shows, and I dig punk rock girls out there. I'd go to the Alpine. Shouts to the Alpine. One of my favorite venues was a bigger venue. You could actually stage dive and get on top of the side speakers and jump into the crowd and be a dick. It was fun.
That?
Yeah.
And you got caught at
There's actually, you can go to YouTube and go to type in bands like Guns Up /show, and you can see Dan Tom charging the stage with a bunch of
You've always been caught?
Huh?
You've always been caught, or have you ever King Kong Bundy'd it?
The one time I King Kong Bundy'd it was when I was actually the singer of the band and jumped into that was here at the Celebrity Theater, was a temporary venue we had right next to UNLV.
You were the singer of a band?
Yeah.
And they elected not to catch you?
There wasn't a lot of people, and I got excited, so I probably should have done it better. And there were probably some girls in there, so they were quick to whoa, and they got out of the way, and I was like, come on, and I just ate shit. There's
with the mic in your hand? You didn't have a Britney Spears headset, Carl's Jr. headset, right?
I'll pull up a picture of someone snapped a picture right after I fell, and it's funny. You see people in the background with their hands over their mouth still, it's pretty.
He had to have a mic in his hand.
Please pull that.
I'll pull it up while you're.
Well, I didn't know if at some point you let it go.
Boy? Oh yeah.
That's
true. Did you let it go or did you hang on to it?
That's a good question. I mean,
now you're fucking up the mic and your hand. You want it to splatter land.
Well,
right?
the good thing is
I think I'd be so scared that I'd clinch.
Clinch?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably took the mic with me because with hardcore audience, part of the thing was the fun part was that you sing along with the singer, so people would go for the mic or this or that, or if you threw the mic in, they would toss it back to you. Something you don't see in any other genre of music, but
find the picture of you.
I will find the picture of me post Wipeout for you guys.
Right. And I'll keep looking for this. I'm 10 pages into Google.
In crowd surfing, do you think there's pictures of just one person holding Danny up like this?
Danny,
one hand
Danny
Bob,
Okers?
Bob's big boy.
No. Well, I mean, you know what? Someone the size of Brock Lesnar could do it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I could catch Danny Okers. I would not want to catch Dan.
No, but if you're a group of people, I I'd imagine if there's like 5 or 6 guys, they might just go, I'm not trying to put down my beer. I think we can catch them.
See, here's how it starts off. It's looking cool. Like, I've got my sweater on still. People are singing along. It looks great, right? Everything looks great. I start getting sweaty. I take my shirt off and decide to do a front flip into the crowd, and I fall, and everybody is, you can see the faces to see what just happened.
Oh,
like,
that doesn't look too
It doesn't look bad because the picture doesn't catch the fall, but you could just see on the people's faces of concern, like, and my embarrassed look on my face. Like, yeah, that was over 10 years ago. Wow.
All right. So, listen, UFC 224.
He promised.
Yeah, I did. Gastelum defeated Souza. He wants to sit out. He says he's next. Do you guys
I
agree?
don't know that he can do that.
Okay.
Do you?
Well, we're only about 3 weeks away from Whitaker defending against Romero. And what he's saying is, I don't want to take another fight. I want to fight the winner of Whitaker versus Romero. I think it's worth it for him to at least find out in these next 3 weeks who wins, because we all know there's that scary thing of if there's a controversy at all where they need to run it back, like Lyoto and Shogun, or if it's not controversial but it's a classic and it's one of those things that just spikes through the roof and Dana goes, we got to do part 2 or whatever.
Right.
Well, because technically if Romero wins, they'd be 1-1.
Yeah, that's the big problem
Right,
there.
so
that's 50% right there that you're just banking on.
He needs to wait that out and see what happens.
Yeah.
Now, one argument, I'm a big proponent of head-to-head, and within the last year, Weidman finished him. But Weidman's 1-4 in his last 1-3 in his last 4 fights.
4, okay.
And in his last 36 months, which is kind of like this cutoff number we use when we're doing rankings. It doesn't mean that anything outside of that isn't important. It's just that seems to be the most relevant.
Yeah.
And so in the last 36 months, Weidman is 2-3, whereas Gastelum, I believe, is 4-1. So since Gastelum got finished by Weidman in Long Island, he's come back and won twice.
Yep.
Now the first one was Bisping, the second one was Jacare. The Bisping fight, when he beat Bisping's shine had come off. He was no longer the champ. He was the ex-champ, and he was fighting off 3 weeks because he was the last-minute sub. And so I still give credit to him.
Right.
He beat a tough middleweight, a former world champion. Can't never take that away from him. But I felt like Weidman still had the lead. All right, but now Weidman hasn't fought since that fight, and he was sitting on 3 losses before then. And now Gastelum goes to Brazil and beats Jacare. Those 2 wins might outdo Weidman's win over Gastelum. Now, had Weidman basically been 2-2 in his last 4, or maybe he had even won the fight before he finished Gastelum, then he'd have a little bit more of a stronger leg. But I feel like 1-4 in your last, or 1-3 in your last 4, and it is Gastelum. But where have you been for a year? Weidman really
Injury
needs
problems.
to
Right.
Weidman really needs to make some noise and get healthy quick. Otherwise, I believe it may be Gastelum's shot.
I can kind of understand Gastelum where he's coming from, but I just don't say it out loud. I don't know why. I just feel like I just don't say it.
You feel like you're still watching what should be a welterweight contender instead of a middleweight contender?
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, he rode this. He's on a wave, and he just rode it all the way to the sand. And at any point, he knew he was going to wipe out. He could have wiped out last Saturday. And he would have said, fuck it. I'm really a welterweight. Time to go to the UCPI, get my nutritionist, and dial this in. I lost the split to Tyron Woodley, so I know I can compete. Let's make that run. But he figured as long as I'm at middleweight, let's see how this works out, and he may be able to catch another wave. We'll know in about 3 weeks. If one guy decisively beats the other one, and I'm talking about more on the Whitaker side, if he goes 2-0 against Romero's, that's it, man. He either needs to move to light heavyweight or just sit back and watch others take shots. But I do believe it would be Gastelum's shot. Now, Whitaker, again, these are all circumstances that I don't want to. If Whitaker, for whatever reason, fights, has an injury, it sets him to the end of the year, then if Weidman gets a win somewhere between, let's say he wins in late August or September, then I believe he may derail Gastelum. You know what I mean? You don't want me to spill the water?
Those hands are flying so close.
Okay. So, what do you guys think? So I think we all agree, right? Gastelum does deserve to be next.
No, I agree with all that.
Weidman can't get a win in between now and then. And I think Gastelum, he gets it. Dern versus Cooper. Anything else you guys want to say? I think I called it a Chuck Liddell-esque big overhand right that knocked Cooper out. And This is a tough loss for Cooper because she stated she was 15 years ahead of Dern when it came to striking, even though she gave Dern the advantage in grappling. So that one's a tough loss to take for her. I don't even know if she stays with the UFC. Maybe she. I don't have a record handy, but huge win for Dern, which she erased like on the easel board. It says fucked up weight cut. I think she at least erased the F word maybe or something. You know, like she. I'm willing to forget a little bit of it. I have to give her credit for the win because the other one gave it to her. Well, she's already saying the right things. You know, the UFC saying, hey, you need to get over here and figure this out. Otherwise, you're moving to flyweight. I don't think she should be next or nothing like that. But I at least, I don't know. It helped me forget the fiasco the day before. I thought it was very unprofessional. But
she said
the other
right
one agreed to
things
take the fight.
later. She should have said the right things the night of.
Yep.
When they gave her the microphone in the cage.
Post-fight should have been the first thing
she
said.
should have taken her medicine.
Yep. What was the? I believe Jared Gordon did the right way. Go look at Jared Gordon's first fight in the UFC. He missed weight, and he doesn't even answer the first question Anik or Stan gives him. He goes, "I just want to say real quick that I apologize to my opponent, the UFC, the matchmakers. This was unprofessional. Never helping again." And then he goes on with his interview. That's how you do it. I agree with. So I'm more with, I should say, Goze on this, where I don't. It doesn't rest as easy with me. And tell me, George, does it still erase the fucked word? According to that, if I told you that the Brazilian, they tweeted today.
Here's how I felt about it. Here's how I felt about it. On Friday, I was like, man, that's a fucking big mistake.
Right.
She missed her fucking weight cut, right? After the fight, if you would have said, what happened with Dern again? I probably said, oh, that was a weight cut issue. That's what I meant was, I'm a little bit over it because we turned the page. The opponent took the fight. The opponent took 30%, and I got to give respect to that overhand right. It was nice, and then she went in there for the finish. And the UFC's already warned her and said you're either going up or you're meeting with our people. So I feel like something's going to get fixed there, and we all just kind of like move on. That's what I mean. But if you were to tell me she deserves to be the next contender, no, I'd say no. Is she completely forgiven? No. It has to be a mark on her jacket. I was a little bit more irate about it Friday. That's kind of what I meant.
Well, what I was going to say is that they tweeted just this morning. I don't know if you were aware of that. The news outlets, the Brazilian commission reported that she landed in Brazil. She landed on fight week at 139.7 or something pounds. Oof. Now, that's why I'm asking. That's why I was trying to interject there.
Yeah, that's that unprofessional stuff that we were talking about. The reason why her and the coach, John Crouch, who's very respected, they parted ways, missing the flight, coming in heavy. I mean, this water retention, you're not going to be able to use that much
as a female.
For water retention.
Well, okay, normally I'm with you on that type of viewing things that way. Like Kevin Lee, right? Barely. Had he gotten the win, yeah, I could probably, that begins the process of forgetting everything. But 7 pounds is a lot. And when you're in the cage and you look at the two of them and you just see how much bigger she was, it's hard to say, yeah, she's better than her skill-wise. Because there's a piece of it that could say, all right, she landed that big shot, but then she was such a much bigger girl on top that I don't know if she won that fight because she's better.
I won't argue that.
So that's why I can't let it go.
And for me, the just seeing that again, reaffirming the stance, little things like body language or like when you say when you address it, like Goze said, that speaks a lot to me. But even if you're not going to be that hard, that's okay. But what speaks harder to me is when I see those numbers, that just kind of proves the fact, the speculations, like George was saying with the parting ways with John Crouch, a very respected coach, a very respected gym. That kind of proves that. And guys, just to put it. 139 pounds. She fights at 115. She came in 25 pounds over. We just talked about Burt Watson and being great at his job, and we heard Burt, on this show many times talk about raising eyebrows to fighters when they come in and check in heavy. Burt would have raised his eyebrow if it was a male who was carrying the body weight of a middleweight or 205 pounder. If you come in 25 pounds or over on fight week, as a male middleweight to 205 pounder, that's heavy. She's a female 115 pounder coming in 25 pounds. I can't stress that enough. That's insane. Yeah, that's just, I don't care.
It is insane. All right, so we should probably do this real fast and then continue UFC 224 talk.
All right.
Today's daily debate question brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. The U.S. Supreme Court has cleared the path for nationwide sports betting. Have you ever bet on MMA or played an MMA fantasy game for money? Goze?
Of course. That's a slam dunk. I definitely have.
Both, right?
Yeah, not every fight is
right?
equal. Sometimes you gotta Do something to make it a little bit more exciting, make your night a little bit more exciting. And yeah, I've done it before.
Dan?
Boy, I come from martial arts since the 90s. I was all about honor and respect. Took me a while to get into the cage fighting. Once I did, took me longer to bet it. But you know what? After placing my first bet, betting that Forrest Griffin would beat Anderson Silva at UFC 101, yeah, that's right. After eating that, I was actually hooked, and I actually developed appreciation for gaming in all seriousness. And it is a little fun, little tack on the sport, whether you're doing fantasy or gameplay. So, yeah, as people know, follow my work, I become quite guilty of in that stepping into that world.
Were the bookies calling you after that one? Hey, Dan, you got anything this weekend? You know,
Oh, that's
Did they send a limo for you?
well, that's the worst. Talk about a worst bet. I don't think I could ever top that. My first bet was probably my worst bet for sure.
I have to go with no. I've never bet or played an MMA fantasy for money.
Today, you mean?
I haven't done that today.
Last 5 minutes?
Today I haven't. So there you have it, folks. Our debate question. You know what? Actually, in regards to how Junkie Nation, our listeners and readers reacted, far different from us.
Yeah.
58% had said yes. The others said no. The other 42% said no. 511 voted.
So many people say they don't know how, though.
Yeah, that kind of surprises me that it was so high because of that. Because so many people, I wouldn't think would be. I think that 58% yes would be much lower.
I thought it would have been 99.58%.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't shake on it?
That's true. Yeah.
We didn't say
those,
through a site or legally in Vegas. I mean, we just said did we bet, right? And who hasn't shook on it? I mean, I don't know.
A Coke, Chipotle, something, right?
Right? Yeah. Change your Twitter handle or forum names. I mean.
Shoot, I feel like putting.
Boy, you 42% are a bunch of fun. Anyway, that's it. That's the daily debate for today. Let's talk to. Let's continue talking UFC 224. Lineker and Kelleher. Kelleher's a trooper, right? We got to give him his
He's
due.
tough.
He went out there. He had some moments. I think there was a couple punches where he threw where Lineker said, "Hey, okay, we got a soldier here." Lineker almost looks like he's chasing you and letting you know I'm gonna fuck you up. It's just a matter of when. But Kelleher is a tough guy. He's a top 20 guy, maybe a top 25 guy. But this was the type of test. Had he gotten past, I think it really would have said a lot about him. And he came up short. But no shame in that.
Yep.
Lineker's checked a lot of dudes. And now Lineker, we talked about how exciting bantamweight was with Rivera versus Moraes, Assunção and Font. This fight that took place, obviously the title fight, and then we have other pieces of the puzzle
Dominic,
that are hanging out there.
Aljamain.
The health of Dominic. When he comes back, he's obviously in the mix. Aljamain, does he fight Cody or does he sit that out and wait for one of these guys? And then Cody, 17-1, 33-0. This was a huge move for Lineker.
I'd love Lineker to fight the losers just stylistically, and I think it makes sense for the way they like to build stuff up. The loser of
Moraes,
Lineker fight the loser of Moraes Rivera, because that's like a title contender matchup, and the guy who loses that, they shouldn't drop.
Hold on a second. What if Moraes wins and Assunção wins? Assunção gave Moraes his first UFC loss. I feel like Assunção's leading that charge, and Assunção's got to win over the incumbent TJ Dillashaw.
That is true.
So that he has a hand to play. It's just his health hasn't helped him. And Rivera's got an outstanding record in the UFC and overall. So should he win, well, then Assunção's hand isn't as strong. Either way, I think Lineker. The only thing I would argue, Dan, is I think Lineker's just going to want someone off a win. I think there'll be someone available to him.
True. Yeah, that's true too.
I mean?
Yeah.
How about those combinations going from the body coming up high? I was telling George during the fight, it almost looked like when Rocky's hitting the slab of meat, only the slab of meat is just running around. Because he took some of them shots, but I think he got to the point where he said, they're good shots, but I know they're not good enough to put me away. And that's when he got really aggressive. And, God, some of those shots were brutal.
It was awesome. Like, you guys made an analogy. The one I always use in my Lineker breakdowns is, to me, he always feels like Super Mario once he gets the Star of Invincibility. Like, you could almost, like, you look at his eyes, you can hear him playing that track in his head. He's
having a blast out
If he doesn't have a mouthpiece in, he'd be drooling everywhere.
Yeah. He's having a blast
But let me say,
Cujo.
Everyone else is, like, so anxious and scared, and I would be too.
Yeah.
Put me on that list, man. I'd be like, when the fuck's this thing over? But Lineker looks like, in fact, was it he that said it? Bring me someone else. No, I think it was Ferreira or maybe Hermanson. No, somebody said I'll fight someone else if they need me. Maybe it was that the
like
Capoeira guy. But that's how Lineker. I feel
yeah,
like Lineker
yeah,
is
yeah.
like, hey, anybody else want to fight? I just won, but I swear to God, I want to fight someone else here.
Last thing I'll say about the fight is Kelleher. His stock doesn't drop down too far for me at all after that fight. Even though he lost, got knocked out, he's still, to me, in my opinion, he's still a great fighter. Still has a great chin, great future. So I'm excited to see that guy fight.
Definitely. All right, last one: Lyoto Machida and Vitor Belfort. This will round off the main card. Just our thoughts. Dan, you go first. What did you think of that fight?
Pretty much like we said in yesterday's daily debate. I mean, it just felt like something out of like an Akira Kurosawa film, like just watching a samurai and an old-fashioned standoff. And yeah, it was a beautiful thing to watch. I had Machida by decision. I thought it was going to be more of a staring contest, but you know, having him counter, either one of them counter each other really wouldn't have been a surprise. So
I was surprised they even got out of the first round. I thought both guys were going to throw pretty hard, and you know, they're a little older. A lot of people question whether their chins are still around, and that shot was a thing of beauty. The way he set it up, just straight down the middle. I think it was Ed Soares. He either Instagram or tweeted the two knockouts, very similar. You know, just coming straight down the middle.
Yeah.
I'll pull that up right now. But
You feeling him when he says Bisping next?
I wouldn't mind watching it. I think it'd be interesting, but I don't think Bisping is.
Yeah.
It's a Legends whoop-ass tour, whatever they like to call it. I get that angle, I guess. But Lyoto's got two good wins. One was over a young, hungry lion like Eric Anders. The other one's a young dinosaur in Vitor Belfort. But a second ago we were saying, hey, how about Gastelum? And, you know, then after that there's Weidman who's injured. And then after that, who else is out there? You know, Branch just got handled. Or no, sorry, Santos just got handled by Branch. Branch got handled by Rockhold. Rockhold might be moving up. Bisping might be retired. Like, you never know, man. Lyoto Machida might be able to play the, hey, remember me? I'm a former champ. I'm a former contender card. I was gone for a few years, but there's no recent wear and tear on this body. I think he should be calling out a young lion.
I don't blame him for asking for that fight. I mean, look at Brad Tavares. He called for it, right? And we kind of figured he wouldn't get it. But it sure got his name out there for a few days, didn't it?
It did.
Got people talking.
It makes sense as far as the legend thing. I agree with Goze. I don't think Bisping would like it. But then we got to be careful with the legends thing because we go down too far that line. And we could end up with a match of a Shogun versus Lyoto 3, which I think could actually be kind of depressing. For some reason, I picture that fight playing out like miserably boring, where you're just like, oh, these guys have gotten old. Like, I feel like that would be a bad. But I feel like that's also a matchup that could be around the corner because, again, like George said, before you know it, these guys like Shogun's another guy. Before you know it, he's got one of the biggest win streaks in light heavyweight again.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take a lot for that division.
Right now, right?
Yeah.
All right. We've at least covered the main card, and if there's a segment towards the end where we can touch on some notable things that happened on the undercard, we'll do that. I think we've already talked about what a great win Bader had at Bellator 199, and there's a few other fights that we can address, and of course we'll be talking to Chet Congo. Right now, before we take a break, let's talk to our good friend Raimundo, a.k.a. Showtime. Hello, Showtime. How you doing, sir? I know you've had a rough go of it these last few days with the loss of your son. Again, man, I'm sure you heard us on the show, or maybe you haven't, but we're deeply, profoundly sorry for your loss of your son.
Man, thank you guys. To be honest, listening to
Showtime, we can't hear you.
We just lost
I think he just dropped out.
All right. Well, Danny, let's take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. When we come back, I believe we have to talk to Chet Congo. But if Showtime comes back during the break, let me know. Okay, Danny?
Will do.
All right, folks, we'll be right back after this break.
Check it out.
I get paid to say things in this cool voice. They get paid to be lame. Here are Gorgeous George and Goze.
Shut up, Brock. I ain't lame. Tune in to NBA Radio, Sirius 207 XM86, and listen for the hourly cue to call for your chance to win airfare, hotel accommodations, and 2 tickets to Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Official rules and details go to SiriusXM.com/SiriusXM. NBA Radio before May 22nd.
Do you want to be happy?
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I'm going to tell you something. For some reason, it always makes you happy, but I got a foot cramp this weekend.
Why does that make him happy?
Or is it in the middle of the night?
No. I almost had another one in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
but it was because I was going from really cold, the cold water, to very hot. And I just got it. And
Cramp stories crack me up,
so
dude. When people talk about
so much.
Watching them.
You'll-
Or when people hurt themselves. When I used to work at a stock room, and
Watching
yeah,
people
that's,
hurt
when you hear me talk
themselves.
about forklifts and all that, I remember I
Oh,
had a buddy
Jesus.
named Big Hector, and this guy he was just kind of like clumsy at times. At times, he was a good guy.
He's the forklift guy. You told a
yeah,
story
that
not too long
story.
ago.
But I remember one time there was a flatbed, and we would deliver supplies to all over this regional office of 1,000 people. And so we worked in the stockroom. There was a flatbed, and the flatbed was right about the level. Picture it's a flatbed with handles and 4 tires. Those 4 tires elevate the flatbed so that you get hit in the shins if you bump into the flatbed.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is an actually really funny story. Let me see if I can act it out. The flatbed is going to be this chair. So you have to watch the video.
Don't hurt yourself.
All 6 of you. So here we go. So he's pushing the flatbed, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the flatbed. And, so the funny thing was he would bang his shins a lot. And then you just see him go, you hear like, bam, like that. And then you go, oh, fuck, whatever. And then you just see him, and he had this funny face where he would just be holding his shins. And I would die laughing, dude. Sometimes I'd fall on the ground like Sal from Impractical Jokers.
Mm-hmm.
I would die, dude. And honestly, to be fair, they would die if I ever did something. Sometimes we cut ourselves or whatever, and it was just funny shit. Like, we would high five and bend over, like, dying at someone else's misery. But this one was funny. And it actually, now that I think about it, isn't really a bang your shins story, but he's pushing the cart, and picture, what do they call it? A ream of paper?
Yeah.
You fit 10 of them in a box. So all of these places had copiers, and we worked in an insurance company, so they went through paper a lot. So we would deliver these big cartons of paper. The way they delivered them to us from Bloomington, Illinois, which is our corporate office, was it was a big box, and it had a plastic around it. It was a thick plastic around it.
We used to whip people with that.
Yeah, it was kind of like, how can I describe it?
We used to hit each other in
it
the
was
legs.
It was more effective than a rubber band, but it was a really, really thick plastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Picture like a piece of Scotch tape, but plastic and thick. And so the way you would cut it is we'd all have our knives, our pocket knives. By the way, Chick Congo, we tried him, and he didn't answer, so that's why we're doing this. So you'd have to cut it with your pocket, your pocket knife or whatever. And no problem. Then you take off the thing, put it down, and the secretaries would go, thank you, see it happy hour, I'll blow you later. Anyway.
What?
Well, you know what I mean. We were always chasing tail and all that. But so sometimes those, if you didn't cut them, some of them were a little loose and they would just fall off.
Uh-huh.
All right? So remember, this thick piece of plastic that can fit around that, sometimes you'd see them all over the place in the stockroom, right? Before the end of the day, before we swept them. And so Big Hector's walking, and he steps on this piece of plastic, and the plastic, it's in the shape of a rectangle. He stepped on it in a way where the other part flipped up. Is there anything around here that would show
Picture
us?
twisty ties, but thicker.
Yeah, they got a natural curve and a whip to them
so
already,
if you
right?
step on it,
yeah.
it's the other part's gonna curl up, right? So he stepped on it, got his legs tangled in that. And as he's pushing the cart, he trips, and he goes straight down. Except when he trips, there was enough distance between him and the cart that, first of all, let me see. He's walking, and then he gets stuck there, and then boom, he bangs. That's what he did. He banged his shin here, and he goes, oh, fuck, and he falls down. And when he fell down with the cart, and then all these boxes fell on him.
That happened to me at Sam's Club.
And when I showed up, dude, I was like, I was dying. Of course, I fell down. I'm laughing, and I'm like, how'd you even get there? He's even laughing. He goes, I don't know. Somebody tripped me. He kept swearing somebody tripped him.
Was he cursing in Spanish as well, like the Bumblebee from Simpsons?
Something like that. He was insisting that he was tripped. I'm like, bro, it's just you and I think Sam's over there. And he was like, no, man, one of you motherfuckers, and blah, 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 until we finally figured out. I go, look what's at your feet. And that's how he had tangled himself and then caused him to bang his shins and then fall down with the weight that he pushed, and everything fell on him. It was hilarious, man. Maybe it was more hilarious that day, obviously, than the way I'm explaining.
Don't feel bad. I had that gear, too, in a construction job. I didn't have seeing guys hurt themselves. And it was a construction job, so they were probably, cursing in Spanish as well whenever they got hurt, which helped make it funnier because of the Simpsons imagery that you just put in my head.
I'm going to see if I can find one. I'm going to ask Cindy here.
Big Hector.
If she has
I've
paper.
seen them here. Back here, they have them. Yeah.
Dude,
And then if I show it on camera, you guys will.
Because it's basically a loop. It's almost like if you stepped on a hula hoop in the right way, it would flip up, right?
Right.
That's what happens.
And
I had that happen to me at Costco, but it was my shoelaces. That's why I don't tie my shoelaces anymore. I just tuck them in because the loop got caught on the bottom part where you would put water on a basket. So when I was taking a step forward, the loop went over these things that hang up like that. So it got caught over. And then when I brought my leg back, I brought the cart slamming into my shin.
Oh.
And then that hurt so bad that when I brought my other leg, just used to walking forward, the other leg went almost like I leg kicked the bar.
Yeah.
So I hurt both shins, which made me fall. And then I brought everything. Yeah, I always tuck in my shoelaces. I never tie them anymore.
Because of that incident.
That was like 15 years ago. And everything
shit.
in the cart fell. It didn't really fall on me. The cart fell on me. And then everybody came. It was right by when you walk into a Costco and the
were you working or
DirecTV
shopping?
Guys there, or whatever, trying to sell you something. That guy came. Oh, you're all right. I was all red.
Were you working or shopping?
Hot dogs. Huh?
Were you working or shopping?
Kind of both. Yeah. We had a business
I remember
back
you
in
telling
the day.
me that.
It hurts so bad, dude. And that pain, the shin that he's talking about, the reason it's so funny is because it hurts you for weeks. It doesn't go away.
It's the person's reaction, just where they can't talk, they're in pain, and they're pissed at themselves for even putting themselves in that pickle.
But cramps are like that. Hector had a bad cramp too. Remember, he got a face cramp or
Joe Bolanos
neck
got a face cramp.
Or then he got the forearm cramp, or he got one
Joe
of them.
Bolanos also got the forearm cramp. What did Hector
I want to see Big Hector's shins. Like Big Hector sounds like he has shins of the Muay Thai fighter.
He had a jaw cramp. Danny, we're good on calls, right? Do I have to refresh VX or anything?
I don't see any in mine.
There's one there.
Oh, maybe one there. Okay.
I think he's answering it right now. I think.
Probably.
Okay.
Their cramps are funny, dude.
So Big Hector actually worked with Big Joe, two big dudes, and they were working overtime. So their manager brought in Mexican food.
This is really racist.
Joe was one of them guys that, like if you said, hey, I'm going to Pedro's or Pancho's or someone's, he liked to build a burrito, but he's like one of those yeah, man, carnitas and beans and rice and where the guy's like fucking folding the burrito, and barely keeping it together. And I remember Joe told this funny story. He got it. We were all talking about cramps one day. He went to eat the burrito, and he opened his mouth so wide because it was such a big burrito that he got a cramp right here, whatever muscle that is. It's not even your neck, right? What is it?
I forget. I was actually just reading about that muscle last night, believe it or not. But yeah,
where your double chin would be.
Yeah. He said he opened his mouth, and all of a sudden he went like Fire Marshal Bill, kind of like he just shuddered, and all of a sudden there was this incredible cramp, and he said it fucking hurt like no other. He goes, "Give me the calf cramp, give me the foot, the toe, whatever. Give me 10 of those." He goes, "It was not as bad as that." And he said what was so bad was he said he tried to rub it out. And he said, "I just wanted to get over it because the burrito was getting cold and he really wanted his burrito."
Jesus.
And he wasn't able to eat it because he couldn't really move his mouth. He said he had to eat soup out of a straw for 3 days before it was better again.
Remember Marco, our neighbor?
Yeah.
At one time, he ordered a pizza from Domino's Pizza, and I was going to come over and play video games or something. It's like, all right, pizza will be there in 15 minutes or something. So I cross the street. And when he opens the door, he looks like the mask from Scream. Like his mouth is like, yeah. And I'm like, haha, whatever. And he's like, he couldn't say anything. And I'm like, what's going on? Are you having a heart attack? What's going on? He's running around. Yeah, his jaw got stuck. But he got stuck yawning. So he just kind of went, and it got stuck like that. And he was stuck like that for about 5 hours. But then it kind of closed a little bit, and he was stuck like that for about 2 days.
Wow.
And he couldn't talk or nothing.
Serious,
he had to write everything down. He's like, tell the pizza guy this and that. Here's the money.
You ever keep in touch with that guy? He was a nice guy.
The last time I talked to him was the time when we moved your fucking horrible refrigerator. Remember that? That was the last time I talked to him.
Wait, when we moved it with Rodney?
Yeah.
After it had been closed?
Yeah.
Why would you talk to Marco that day? We were at...
He just called me.
I
just remember we were in the truck. I remember telling him I can't talk right now because I'm in the middle of throwing up.
What makes a refrigerator horrible?
Disgusting.
What makes a refrigerator horrible? That like when you open George's refrigerator, it goes zoom.
This one?
I would rather open that
really?
refrigerator.
What? It's worse than the Ghostbusters 1 refrigerator?
I would rather open Buffalo Bill's refrigerator from Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, I don't even know what was in that.
All right, here's what happened. I had gotten Bell's palsy in 2008, and around that time, I was gonna rent the house in Santa Ana, California, because I was full-time moving here. I had been going back and forth, but now that's it. I was out, and so were my renters. So the whole house needed to be emptied because I was going to rent to a family, a friend of mine named Victor. But because this happened to me, Goze said, all right, I'll take charge. I was just a single guy in a four-bedroom house. So it was a bachelor pad, but it wasn't like moving a whole family. It basically had my room, and all the other rooms were empty, and then just the living room and kitchen. So as Goze said, hey, give me the dolly, and I'll fill up the heavy stuff. The girls, which was my mom and Jenny, his ex at the time, were supposed to take care of the kitchen. So plates and everything or whatever.
Me and Tommy would just load everything onto the U-Haul.
Right. And so they just didn't want me doing anything because I was fresh off this deal. And so what happens? You're right there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you reach in there and then a big smile comes on
I'm
your face.
constantly adjusting myself because I'm in constant discomfort for the surgery that nobody wants to hear about, but that's what it was. So continue.
So you're going to guess what happened, but basically they loaded the fridge and all the kitchenware. Maybe not. We loaded the fridge, the kitchenware, and I was kind of like directing, do this, do that. And we put it all in a pod.
Mm-hmm.
The pod got moved to somewhere in Fullerton, I believe. That was its warehouse. And my plan was we were staying at Jason Straub's house. You've heard me talk about that guy before, where we basically set up shop here in Vegas. Except we wound up living there longer than I thought, and there was just really no need to bring all that stuff over. So I just played pods at $100 a month, $80 a month. I don't know. We go back to pods after we left Jason Straub's house and we moved into an apartment here in Vegas. We go back to pods, and why did we go there and just not have them move it?
Because
we're in Vegas, that's in Cali.
All that was left, I think, was the refrigerator because you didn't have anyone that could help you move it. So remember, you actually rented a room still in your old house, so you would go back and forth. And I think you had cleared everything from the pod. You just didn't have somebody with like a truck or something.
Oh, I did? I thought the pod was full. Fridge. I remember the pod being kind of full.
Maybe. I don't know.
So what I can't understand is why we didn't just move the pod. But maybe we wanted to go in there and just probably dump some stuff before they brought it over. Our lives had just changed a little bit, and who knows what was going to work and what wasn't. Because we were now officially, between Goze and Jenny and myself, it was going to be 2-bedroom apartment, but I still had a room full of what might be more than excess, right? When we get there, I guess Goze can take it from here, but as soon as we lifted, was there already a scent?
No, it wasn't until Rodney, my buddy, opened the doors, and he goes, whoa, like that, and I go, whoa, what is it? And he goes, dude, what the fuck is in here? And we look, and it was covered in ants and maggots.
What?
And what had happened was there were
the girls.
The girls didn't clean it out completely. So there was, I remember, a whole roll of chorizo, and I think the other thing was like French fries or something like that. And dude, just thinking about it, it was in there, and oh my god, it smelled so bad, and the maggots everywhere, and we still had to move it. And so in moving it, Rodney and I just kept throwing up over. We'd take turns because the smell was so bad.
What was worse, that? Picture that, or going home right now, opening a fridge and seeing a human head, like a cartel mailed you a human head.
Yours. Does the human head smell?
It's fresh.
It's fresh?
Yeah.
You're thinking.
So there's like
I've never smelled anything like that.
It was bad, man, because I remember we all just kind of went,
it was there for like 2 years.
Picture like a crime scene where everyone goes, oh, you know, like that.
The smell doesn't even get me.
It's
the maggot thing. Dude, really? Was it like an army? Was it like for visual purposes, guys? Was it like the movie Lost Boys where like, how you enjoying that rice? And he looks down and just full of maggots.
Full of maggots.
What?
Like that.
I remember there was a bottle of ketchup in there and mustard. It was basically how I left the fridge. Remember, I was a single dude and I didn't go back as often, so I had the essentials. But yeah, I guess there was a roll of chorizo, maybe some butter, maybe some mayo, or I don't know. But what happened was, I think in their communication, because I obviously looked at Jenny like, you didn't fucking clean out the fridge? And I think...
No, I got yelled at it for it. Because we even had court here with Stitch Duran, and we had the whole case and everything.
Right.
So what happened was I got yelled at, and George was like, well, you fucking idiot, because now he can't use the fridge.
Yeah, the fridge is
Dude,
done.
There's no way. I don't even care if somebody said, no problem, we'll clean it, we'll get back to you in a day. No. Food will never go in there. And so he was blaming me, and I was like, what do you want from me? That day, all my job was...
like he should have loaded it. Or
he said I should have checked it. Now, I was telling him, man, it's a long day. Like, if I did that, what would be the point of them? Like, that's their job. They got to clean it out. They would just bring it here, and then, I would put it up on the thing. Can you imagine if I go through every box? Like, you sure? Like, we'd be there forever. And so, yeah, it was just, dude, we must have thrown up at least 6 times alternating. Like, you now, me now. We move it a little bit.
Dude, all we needed to do was just throw it away. And throwing it away was horrific. It stunk so bad. We didn't want to touch it. We didn't want. I think we threw away anything that was touching the fridge. It was just horrific. And I think I did. My case was, maybe I embellished a little, but my case was that is kind of like a prime thing, a prime part of the move, and it probably wouldn't hurt to just go. We ready to go and open it real quick and close it, and then that could have been the end of it, you know.
Right.
But he chose not to do it,
Yeah.
and of course I lost the whole fridge over it. The easy thing would have been for there to be communication, like for Jenny to go, what are you taking that for? We haven't emptied it.
No, it was already in the garage. Like, whoever had moved it already to that area, we were just getting it from there.
You had to
up
have moved
onto
it.
the truck.
Jenny and Mom were going to move it.
I don't know how it got there, but I just remember our job was just moving it in. I don't know if somebody else moved it or what, but we just got it from there. Like, I don't think we got it all the way from the kitchen. I think it had already been dealt with, and it was already there. Because I remember that day, Tommy didn't have much time. So Tommy just, like, that's why we were doing everything so quick. So I was like, all right, let's just go boom, 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 boom. Because he had to go somewhere.
How much would it have cost? How much would we have to pay if we were able to empty all the compartments and you have to sleep a night in there?
I mean, I would need there to be a doctor. We've taken everything out.
We just haven't cleaned it.
I would need there to be a doctor because
you won't die. There's no infections.
If I'm not gonna die, then yeah, it's gonna take a lot of money. But I know I'm just gonna continually throw up, so I'm basically sleeping the night, throwing up and shitting all over myself.
Yeah.
So give me, and I'm uncomfortable too, man. Fuck, it's like being in a coffin. Yeah,
you don't have to give me a number. I just thought that the more I talk about it, the more you might
I need
gag.
30.
I was trying to get him to gag.
I gagged this morning because somebody posted the video of your poop story. And I was trying to describe to Danny, and I almost threw up too.
Oh, you haven't heard that story, Danny?
I haven't heard the story.
I hadn't, but now I've heard you tell the whole story.
Probably.
I watched it this morning.
Oh, okay. Where'd you guys find
it? Somebody had posted it in the combat chat, like, hey, remember when George did this?
It was one of my compadres that went to Brazil with me.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you about the time I shit my pants in Brazil, John? No? Oh, okay. I'll send you the link. I've told the story before. Because you remember when we'd go to Brazil and sometimes the food just wouldn't hit us right? Yeah.
I was pretty lucky, though.
Okay. All right. Are we good on breaks, Danny? Where do we sit?
We have one more break.
We should take that, and then we'll come back and take Nick's call. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. Will do. All right, we're back from break. Let's just jump right into it and talk to Nick from Vancouver, one of our top callers. What's up, Nick?
Hey, boys. Nice to be live with you again. I couldn't believe what I heard on Sunday, man. I was listening to Friday's show, and you broke the news about Showtime there, and I just wanted to come on live and say, thoughts and prayers, brother, and, what do you say in a time like this, man? Like, my deepest condolences, and one father to another, I can't ever imagine having to go through something like that. So, if you're out there, buddy, you got lots of friends and family thinking about you, and all the best, buddy.
Yeah, definitely, Nick. Thanks for passing that on. I feel terrible that we haven't been able to connect with Showtime. He's actually called today, and the call dropped, and twice yesterday, maybe 3 times, I think Danny said, twice that I saw. But again, the call dropped, and yesterday was a difficult show in itself. So it's unfortunate we haven't been able to at least live hear his voice. But I did talk to him on Facebook, and I don't know that there's really much we can say. He's processing this, and obviously in a lot of hurt. But yes, he has been very vocal and saying that he appreciates all the texts and messages and everything that he's gotten from his friends and in and outside of Junkie Nation.
Yeah, it's wonderful, man. You always need people around you when you're going through shit like that. Like, fighting and all this bullshit that we talk to is one thing, but it's like real life, man. So,
well said.
That's it for me, man. Like, the shows are rocking, boys, and keep up the great work, and talk to you another time.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick, for the call.
Okay, buddy. See ya.
All right, see ya. Danny, did Showtime ever call back?
He did not.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Hey.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
You.
Mine's stupid.
Okay. Folks, for those of you wondering about Chicago, yesterday we connected easily, confirmed today, and I even sent him his warning. A lot of guests like to get the warning call or the warning text, and I did that. And Danny's saying it just kind of almost sounds like the phone's off, so maybe a meeting or a late night, or we apologize. As far as our guest co-host, we struck out there too. That one was settled last week, and then I came across some confusion there between representation of the fighter or who was what. So I'm not going to hold it against the fighter. I guess I'm just going to hold it against the person that set this up or whatever. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. I'd love to get him on here sometime because I've seen him at the gym a lot, and I just always thought he might be one of the Brazilians that doesn't speak English, but apparently he does, and he's a former champ over at WSOF, and he's in the tournaments that they're going to have there for PFL, because it's now PFL. So, all right, I'm hearing we do have Showtime, right, Danny?
Yeah.
It's called back.
All right, what's up, Showtime?
Hey, guys, sorry about that. We've been playing phone tag, man. I'm sorry. I've been in bad areas since I've been driving. It seems like every time I get on, my caller drop, man. But, man, I just want to thank you guys, man, for the love, man. Junkie Nation, man, is amazing, man. And, one thing about when you got a tragedy, you'll know who's with you. It'll bring the best out of people, and it'll bring the worst out of people. Junkie Nation, you guys rock, man. I'm going through it right now, but I'm in good spirits, man. I got a good support system, man, and, we going to pull through, man. Sometimes when stuff happens, you want to ask God why, and, he has a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, so, I got to be a grandfather and a father now, so basically I got to stay strong.
So the kids will be moving in with you? Because if I'm not mistaken, he lived in the northern part of the United States, right? You live in the south?
Well, actually, he lives in Jackson, Mississippi. That's where I'm originally from. I live in.
For some reason, you know what? I think it's because I saw your locations on Facebook and you were in New York. I apologize. Okay, Showtime.
Yeah.
Stick with us, guys. A couple seconds, a couple minutes of overtime.
Yeah.
Let's do that. All right, Sirius XM audience, we are bowing out, but we'll be back tomorrow again with another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. I hate to tell you who the guest list is because I don't know what direction it's going to go in, but it'll be a great show. The rest of you head on over to facebook.com/official MMA Junkie.
Daytime, if you see it once, you'll never be the same again. gonna keep on the run. I'm gonna have me some fun. It cost me my very last dime. If I wind up broke, well, I'll always remember that.
Guys, clear for overtime.
Okay, Showtime. Yeah, I'm glad we have you here. And for those that haven't heard or you're just hearing now, Showtime did lose his son, Christian, if I'm not mistaken, that's his name, this past week. And it was Showtime. I don't know how comfortable you are talking about this, but this was unexpected. I believe it was an accident, correct?
Yeah, man. I'm fine, man. Yeah, he was driving a dump truck, and actually when he dumped, he didn't realize that his bed was touching the power line. You know, that happens, but normally the driver stays in the truck, and the power company will move it, or he just needed to stay in the truck. Basically, he didn't know, and pretty much as soon as he stepped out of the truck and his foot made contact with the ground, he got electrocuted. It's like something, some freak stuff that you'll see on TV, not nothing that you just expect to happen. And it's kind of like I've had my moments out here, man, where I broke down, and just wondered why, and today is actually a good day, and I'm in good spirits right now, man. Y'all just keep us in your prayers, man. I know it'll be a day-to-day thing of trying to deal with it, man, but like I was saying, I got to be the one that hold it together, because the babies are the ones that I'm really worried about right now, is trying to make sure that they have everything that they would have had with him. Because one thing I can say about my son, he was growing into be a good, hard-working young man, and he loved his little boy and his little girl. He loved them. That's all he talked about every day. And, I was telling Goze, man, one of my son's bucket list things he wanted to do was come out to Vegas with me for a fight. It never would line up with him for him to come for us work-wise, but that was one of the things he used to say, Pops, I'm going to go to Vegas with you, and we're going to go to a fight. That's one of the things that he used to talk about he wanted to do.
Yeah, man, that's so hard to hear. Just something so random. And of course, at any point in time, this is a tragedy. But being that within the last week or two, you had just told us about your son and talked about your son, I just couldn't believe that all of a sudden, your son was no longer with us. That's how random this freak accident was, and I'm so sorry that it cost him his life, and there's going to be many lives affected by this, including your grandkids. Again, Showtime, so sorry for everything you're going through. We're all here for you, within and outside the show. Please know that.
And that goes for everybody. I mean, we're all very easy to get a hold of, and as you can see with all the other junkies out there that have been reaching out to Showtime, it's kind of a big family. And anytime something like this happens, or even if you have anything you want to talk about, we're pretty easy to get a hold of, and we're always here for you guys.
Yeah, Showtime. Speaking of family, that's perfect. No, you're definitely obviously family, Showtime. You're part of this show, part of my day, part of our day. So to hear any of you or anyone in pain definitely brings us pain. So you're in my thoughts and prayers, brother, you and your family. And so to jump on Goze's note for everybody in general, it is a big family, and it helps more than you think. Even just little support, little things you do to show support. And I'm sure I'm speaking for many junkies. Whenever we're having our own issues, when junkies come in here, even just to say hi, it brightens up my day. So the appreciation that we have, I know I have. I can speak for these guys. They have for all of you guys, unquestioned, and appreciative. So yeah.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. Like I was telling Goze the other day when I sent him an instant message, I was like, man, just me getting a chance to listen to the show and kind of get my mind off what I'm dealing with right now, just to kind of talk something, MMA, and just to get my mind off of it, man. That's kind of how I've been using this, man. It's just therapy, man. I have to deal with this tonight, the next day or whatever, man. But I just want to, thank you guys, man, for not only me, but, I've heard a lot of junkies just say, this kind of puts us sort of in a little fairy tale land of talking about something that we love, man. And I want to thank you guys again for it, man. And just thank all of you for, just for being there for me.
Of course, man. can't say enough good things about Junkie Nation, honestly. And you're a really great guy, Showtime. We love you, and we're here for you. You know,
Yeah.
and call into the show anytime you'd like about any topic you'd like. Please know that.
All right, man. Man, the feeling is mutual, man. Man, love you guys too, man. And like I said again, man, Junkie Nation rock, man. I mean, just the messages and we're praying for you, man. And that means a lot, man. When you grieve and you see somebody cares about you, man. That means a lot. And George, the show was really emotional yesterday. That's why I wasn't even going to call in. But man, after Morrow came on, man, I was just like, wow, that touched me in a way, and I saw you get touched too, man. And that was an amazing show. That may be one of the best shows I've ever watched yesterday, man.
Well, thank you. We did it. We talked to 3 legends yesterday of the sport of mixed martial arts. All of them have something going on. Misha's pregnant with her first baby, and Dan just got news of the induction of what will be the induction of his fight with Shogun, and at some point he will be as well. And then Morrow brought it home, just opening himself up the way he did. And I'm telling you guys, I can't say it enough. May 25th, mark it on your calendar. Don't do anything other than watch the Bipolar Rock and Roller, 9 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on Showtime. You are going to love it. Even if it's something outside of mental illness awareness, which is obviously the forefront of why this documentary was made, but even if you're just a Mauro Ranallo fan or a fan of the big figures or notables that are outside, that are outside the cage, and you want to know more about them, I just think it's outstanding, and it hits so many check marks, and I'll probably wind up watching. That'll probably be one of those that I watch many times over and over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, didn't it seem? Did you finally watch it all or no?
I finally just finished it all.
So you had only watched the first 20 minutes. Didn't it just keep topping itself? How amazing it was, and how they tied all the footage that they found on Morrow, and
just knowing where, I felt like some of the conversations I've had with them were during some of those times, and I was able to go, oh shit, now I know. There was a lot of that going on.
Well, that's part of probably why I really wasn't sure if I had made a mistake by having him on. I didn't want him or anyone else to think, oh man, this is you guys are doing this for clicks, and
no, not at all.
I thought, should we have shut things down when early on you could just tell it wasn't his day, and perhaps, you know what I mean? I'll tell you a funny story. Well, I don't know if it's that funny, but I guess Morrow has done our show in studio about what goes. I know he did it once with
about
Boss.
5 times.
Yeah, that's a good number. They haven't been easy. Sometimes he's tough to track down. But we went through a spell of about 2 years, especially when he was working with Showtime, the channel, not our caller, not our current caller. And I couldn't get him over here. So this time he tweeted, on my way, except he was standing kind of in front of a Southwest. He was at the gate, and there was just a Southwest sign. And I knew he was flying out of Burbank, so I was able to go into Southwest. I was here at the studio and find the flight that I thought he was on, that he was taking. He landed at the airport, and I was there with a Morrow Ranallo sign. I think I wrote something else on it. And he saw me as he was coming down the stairs. He goes, "You might ride or what?" And I go, "I am now, I go, but as you will see, I'm here to talk about other stuff too. Oh, cool. We started talking. We just kind of went into our rhythm until we got to the very end. It was the MGM signature. And I said, "Listen, jackass," because that's how we talk to each other. We're really, really cordial, but every once in a while we just unleash. And I go, "Listen here, jackass." I go, yeah. You're welcome for the ride. I hope you have a good call of the fights. I go, "But you've been avoiding our ass. So you need to get your ass down to MMA Junkie Radio either tomorrow or the day after." He starts laughing it off. I go, "I'm serious." I go, "No laughing, man. I will send some badass motherfuckers down here to break your leg." We had that kind of conversation, And he laughed it off. gave him a hug, and I really thought he was going to come down, but he still was able to avoid. But as I was watching the documentary, what I felt bad about was, what if it was just one of those bad days, and every time I was sending him a text or an email, come on, rally, get your shit together, whatever, it was one of those days where he was just having a weak moment, and you hear him talk about tying something to the chandelier or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, like, us when we're ball busting, or when we're bullies, as kids or as adults or whatever, you really could impact somebody like that, somebody that might just not be having a good day. Mental illness aside, just somebody that might not be having a good day. But I thought about it, and I was like, wow, I consider him my friend, and he's been suffering for so many years. He just showed it to me in this documentary, and yet, who knows, all those times I was maybe pushing him to come somewhere where he just wasn't ready to be. This is a home to him, but when you're suffering with mental illness, this could just be a frightening place to be that you don't want to be at that particular moment. As brilliant as he is, as quick as he can turn it on and turn it off, at that particular moment, something he has been to and agreed to do, if he was in the right state of mind, if he was just having a bad day, I may be trying to lead him to just something that is frightening to him, and that's what I was thinking about, like how I may have contributed to that.
Well, I mean, I've only gotten positive responses on social media, and I've only gotten personal ones, just about how well you guys handled it, and how well the show came off, how well Morrow came off. So I'm glad to hear that. But that I gotta imagine it for you guys, knowing him, knowing his journey, and being able to not just watch a documentary, but kind of put the pieces together. That's definitely got to be a trip. I mean, just knowing people that know, because you don't want to think about these terrible things, right? You want to think of best case scenario. But, speaking as someone who's known many people, more relevant, you can guess what I'm talking about here. Mentioned him already earlier in the show. Knowing people who've taken their life or anything like that, you can't. And if you're friends and you had day-to-day contact, week-to-week contact for years on end with that person, it's so hard not to ask certain questions. And I think that's the last position anyone ever wants to be in. You never want to be, what could I have done? And even though I don't know Morrow like you guys, his stories is particularly touches a soft spot for me for struggles that I've had to go on through my life, and there's a lot of parallels there. So I'm really excited to see this documentary. I'll probably be bothering you for a link, by the way. But
it is amazing, man. I don't have the words.
So I'm definitely looking forward to see it. But just rounding it back to a point you said really really well there is that you never know, and that's something that I can't point to what taught me this lesson early. Maybe it was my own struggles and just kind of being aware of that, to where going, you know what, this feels so miserable that I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, or you've had someone close to you take their own life. Whatever the reason is, if you can just harness that for a second, don't let it go in one ear and out the other, and just remember that, because that's something that I've always taken to heart. So whether it's some random dude, maybe smells funny, looks kind of crazy off the street, says, I want to be this when I grow up, or I want to do, you know what I'm going to say? That's awesome, man. Could you do that?
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, if it's more of a friend, it's going to be a little more of a heartfelt thing, for whatever reason, George wanted advice from my ass, for whatever reason, I'd be like, you know what, man, I give him, a bit more pat on the back, more of an embrace, however you will, but don't ever shun someone or turn someone ignorant away, even if you think you're just messing around, like kind of like what George said. You never know. Not that we can't bust balls or joke,
right?
Like that's not that of course has its own place, but I think you said it a great thing, because you really don't, and I think it's something that it doesn't hurt to kind of think about once in a while.
Yeah, you don't have to be a MMA fan to like this documentary.
Do you feel like I've gone overboard, or do you feel how great it was as well?
I don't know. It's tough because we know him on a very personal level, so it's hard to say like whether Joe Blow will. I mean, I think everybody would really like it. Anybody watching. That's why I said I don't even think you have to be an MMA fan to really enjoy it.
That's what I think too. Maybe because
it's a tough
we went through that journey, the timeline, of. I remember when Steven Quadros would do it with Boss Rude, and how Steven Quadros was no longer there. I read it on MMA Weekly, and I remember Mauro Ranallo's debut, and that storyline kind of worked for me, following his career. But a couple of those times where he was traveling to Vegas or whatever, that's when I was trying to remember, is that around the time that this may or may not have been happening? And
just so much that we wanted to tell him, but one day maybe we'll tell you guys like all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes during that interview. But we just kind of ran out of time. He wasn't doing too well. We knew he had to do more stuff. It was just, but like one thing he said was about how he was given a shot. And it's like really when you think about it, for me, like before I used to do this radio show, I used to do a blog where I would interview fighters. And he gave me a shot. So technically, when I met him for the first time, that's what we talked about was that. And
is that when he goes, and he put his arm around you and he goes, walk with me, Goze?
That was the first time I met him in person. I had interviewed him.
We were at Caesar's Palace, right?
Yeah, that's when I think cell phones had just come out.
Wow. So I got that voice where you just do it, I guess. But didn't he say that? Walk with me, Goze. And you guys
early 2000s.
We were at the weigh-ins for Pride 32, and he just came out of nowhere.
Shit.
And he goes, "You're Goze, right?" And I go, "Yeah." And I go, "You're Morrow." And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "I really enjoyed that interview." And he goes, "Let's talk about it a little bit." And I was like, I was with you, Rodney, and Alton.
Wow.
I think a couple other people. And it was at the weigh-ins. They were outdoors, and he goes, I need to go somewhere. Walk with me. And he put his arm around me, and he took me. We went to the Bellagio. But I didn't even have a chance to say, like, hey, guys, I'll be right back, or anything. It just took off, and we just talked the whole way. And he was talking about how much fun he had and this and that, and just talking about his job. And so, yeah, like, he gave us a shot.
You still have those MySpace interviews or anything?
I don't know. I might have them, like, on an old computer, maybe.
That's like the same as not having them. I don't think you can track that down, can you?
Well, no, I have the old computer. I just don't know if it's on there.
Yeah. But if you logged on to MySpace,
they got rid of all that stuff.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh, I should go check that.
You could write them and go,
I mean, maybe.
hey, I'm a Z-level celebrity. And
well, I mean, I guess
it's solid. It's on your server somewhere.
My band page is still on there. That was from like a year. I went and checked like a year ago.
Was it?
And the music was still uploaded. But just to piggyback.
Just put it in there. MySpace.com/whatever.
While he's searching for that, just to piggyback on Goze's comment, like it felt, just to the parallels that I spoke of. But that part in general, because of what you guys said and the connection to you guys, that's how I identified it from the interview yesterday. Because that part hit me the hardest, because not just seeing a guy that going through pain that not a lot of people can understand, which is something that was already catching my heartstrings, appreciation, attention. But then when he explained his story where he was at his most lowest, but then explained that there were people that gave him a shot as low, as crazy, as much as he wanted to give up. And, without, maybe someday we'll have, I can only hope to have stories like you guys and Morrow in the future, keeping at this someday. And hopefully someday in the future I can come back and talk about this. But you guys know from personal, my situations and my own, maybe struggles outside of work or outside of the show and whatnot. So, and just hearing him go through that and the tie-in of the people who gave him a shot, and that he was talking to you guys, and just not that I didn't realize this before we've talked about it, but you guys know, I credit you guys are the people who've given me a shot of any kind of, whether it's breakdown written or that it tracks back to this show, my involvement, this show, even before I was officially working for it, just as a listener. Just the fact that you guys provided such an interactive, in-depth platform, it allowed for people like me and many others, whether it was Aaron who wanted to go be a ref and a judge, or countless others, right, to kind of get into the sport. So that really, very long-winded, sorry guys, but that really hit a soft spot for me, where I was just like, I am so goddamn lucky to be here sitting with you guys. And I really hope that, I can someday do enough to be able to pay it back, not just pay it back, but be able to be in a place where people care enough to share stories where I say, hey, one time these guys gave me the shot, and and then you kind of go back in the lineage, and you guys had people who gave you a shot, and you guys have shared that story with me, and it's just this amazing thing. So it just I felt really privileged yesterday, in short, just to be witness and privy and present for all that.
Right on, brother.
There's so much that, like, even when we first when I first met him, Boss Rudin and Frank Chick would say, like, Morrow has his moments, and then through friendship you figure out what that means, and they would say they would always say, like, if you think he's great here, go back and watch these videos of when he was a kid doing pro wrestling. So I would go back and I would watch him, and I remember having this conversation with Trig in our living room back at Jason Straub house. And I told Trig, I go, you know what, dude? He's not acting. Like, he's not portraying a character. This is like therapy for him. It's him actually saying the things that he wish he could say in real life. He's calling someone a pencil neck geek or whatever the hell he's calling one of the wrestlers or he's getting in his face, like when he, I don't want to say acts up, but when he has like an episode, that's how he gets, you know. And I thought that pro wrestling thing was probably therapy for him, and probably some of this other stuff was too, going through WWE and calling fights in Japan and all that. So there was just so much going on in our heads as that interview was going through, like so many different things that we wanted to ask him, and just, but for him to choose now as the time for him to put that out there, a lot of people who are close to Morrow have known that he's been going through this for a long time, and for him to pick this as the right time for him to do is like so brave of him to do, because it's one thing having your friends and family know this, but the second you let the world know it, that's it. It's out.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with it. And that's what's so detrimental about bipolar syndrome is it's, you know, you don't know how to deal with that sometimes. So he's really putting himself out on the line in doing this.
I mean, just saying the word mental illness immediately creates a reaction, like Mara was telling us. But like you said, Goze, especially, you know, saying something like that that has so much baggage attached to it, I guess you could say. That, yeah, that's a really good point you make there.
I can't find the blog, but
wouldn't it just been myspace.com/goze or Goze
yeah,
Jitsu?
but those pages look different now. They don't. It's MySpace is now like music,
but they're not you at all.
It's me, but all it is like my face.
So if you go in there, if you request username and password, how do you know that within your page you might not have everything you put out?
Because I was told that it was getting deleted. That it was all.
Oh.
That's why I'm saying I think I have it on the other computer, because I remember that day I think I went through and. But the way it worked was he was in Japan with Trig, and he was reading an interview I did with, I think, Kenny Florian. And so I'm talking to Trig, and he's laughing in the background. And then he goes, "Tell that guy I'm next, I'm next." And so he goes, "Hey, Mauro Ronaldo wants to be next." He goes, "Do you want to do that?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I want to do that." He goes, "Hold on," and he passed the phone. So then I talked to Mauro, and he's like, "I want to do this and that." And he was telling me what he liked about it, and that's how it started.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to have your own book one day, just all these crazy short stories, and just try to format.
Don't rely on me because I don't remember them. But Goze remembers a lot of them. But I'm looking at that Dead Mouse.
Oh, yeah.
Just that late night. Well, that was filmed around 3 a.m., right? Like
yeah.
On Friday night?
I still have that video. Some of my greatest memories of doing the show have to do with Mauro Ronaldo.
Wow.
It really, because that night out there was so much fun with him and Boss. Just chilling, telling old stories.
Wow.
Inside MMA with Mauro, being able, I think we did it 4 times, but being able to do it with Mauro was so cool. And I don't remember the specifics on the story, but this was one, the first one we did in studio, but the other ones we did remotely from our studio. They would tap in. And I remember, you know, you have your producer in your ear, and he's telling you, okay, we're going to be on live. And you can hear Boss and Kenny, but we couldn't see them. They could see us, but we couldn't see them. And, like, I think he said, like, 30 seconds or something like that, the producer. And Mauro, you might remember this because you were on it. He goes, "Hey, Goze, isn't it funny that 10 years ago you were asking to interview me, and 10 years later I'm interviewing you?" And that fucked me up, dude, because then next thing I know, it was like 10, 9, and then boom, we jump into Inside MMA, and I'm like, in my head I'm thinking, holy shit, he's right. You know, we've come a long way, but I'm having all these thoughts at that time, and that really messed me up before live TV. You know, it was like, but I remember that, and I remember talking to him after. I was like, dude, you fucked me up. And he was like, I think he did it on purpose, to be honest, but yeah.
All right. I know Showtime that you're on hold and you're listening, but do you want to say anything before we leave? 'Cause we have to. I think our producer Danny might have other responsibilities too.
Yeah, tell Danny, man, appreciate it, man, for just giving us this overtime, man. But I love you guys, man. That's those stories like that, man. Why we listen to y'all? Just think, man, how cool is it that you have thousands and thousands and thousands of people, man, that just want to hear you guys talk and tell stories. You know.
Well, thank you.
That's amazing, man. And thank you guys. Love you, Goze. Love you, George. Love you, Dan Tom. Love you, Duncan Nation.
Buddy.
Seriously, brother.
Let's
all right.
Keep in touch with us.
Line's always open.
For the next
Showtime.
week, whatever you need, we're here for you. All right, bud.
All right, man. I'll be out there. I need me a much-needed vacation, International Fight Week. I gotta come now because I just need to come get that release, and I'm gonna book my hotel tonight, man. When I get some time. So
let me know when you're coming down. Showtime. Yeah.
All right, Showtime. Take care.
Okay, guys.
See you. Bye-bye. All right. We have to get out of here.
Thank our guests.
Don't have it. One of our guests is ready to go, but it's obviously too late, so I'm going to have to reschedule for tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you all tomorrow. I believe Chikongo will join us tomorrow. And we'll see what else we got up our sleeves. You'll find out tomorrow when you tune in to the best MMA radio show out there.
Vote for us.
That's right. Vote for us. Best programming. We're up for best programming at the World MMA Awards, worldmmaawards.com. For Danny and Dan and Goze, I'm George. Go out there and be a champion.